question to both candidates, and they will each have up to 2 minutes to respond.
And welcome to the program. It is a special coverage this evening. We have the Democratic debate. I am your happy healer, Keith Landy. It is June 26th. We're talking about the things that matter. There's so many things going on. And without further delay, I would like to play for you our beginning.
From that point, until the end of the segment, we'll have an open discussion. The questions are mine and have not been shared with the commission or the campaigns. The audience here in the room has agreed to remain silent so that we can focus.
From NBC News, Decision 2020, the first presidential debate. Live from Hofstra University in Hempstead, New York. Here now, Savannah Guthrie and Chuck Todd.
And good evening, everybody. Nice to have you with us, Chuck. After all the hype, all the prep, all the pre-debate gamesmanship from both campaigns, this is it. We are literally just minutes away now from the start of this first and all-important presidential debate on the stage behind us. We've already seen the candidates tonight.
Happy Healer
And Donald Trump each arriving here a bit earlier this evening. They're waiting backstage. And Chuck, we've had a moment tonight.
Yeah. Happy Healer
In the House and met Mrs. Melania Trump, and they just shared that handshake. We've got the whole families assembled here.
We do, and I think one thing we got to remember, as big of personalities that they are, and we know this is going to be a clash of big personalities, this is also a clash of two competing visions of America.
Let's bring in our colleague Tom Brokaw, obviously somebody who's watched a lot of debates, but doesn't this feel like there's something special about this one, if nothing else, because they think maybe 100 million people could be watching?
I've never seen one quite like this, in part because of that 100 million people, a lot of them are still trying to make up their minds.
I think the polls will move after tonight.
Here we have the multi-billionaire.
Well, that's right, Chuck. Happy Healers in the house, and the people are all excited.
About to debate. We'll let Lester Holt take it away.
Good evening from Hofstra University in Hempstead, New York. I'm Lester Holt, anchor of NBC Nightly News. I want to welcome you to the first presidential debate. The participants tonight are Donald Trump and
Happy Healer.
This debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates, a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization. The commission drafted tonight's format, and the rules have been agreed to by the campaigns. The 90-minute debate is divided into 6 segments, each 50 minutes long. We'll explore 3 topic areas tonight: achieving prosperity, America's direction, and securing America. At the start of each segment, I will ask the same lead-off question to both candidates, and they will each have up to 2 minutes to respond. From that point until the end of the segment, we'll have an open discussion. The questions are mine and have not been shared with the commission or the campaigns. The audience here in the room has agreed to remain silent so that we can focus on what the candidates are saying. I will invite you to applaud, however, at this moment as we welcome the candidates. Democratic nominee for President of the United States,
Keith Landy.
And Republican nominee for President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Alrighty. And welcome to the program. I hope you enjoyed that opening. And we are on debate night. It is with all of my Democratic candidate rivals. They don't even know I exist. The Happy Healer here talking about the things that actually matter to the American people, and yet they don't even know who I am. Well, we'll just have to keep working harder, and you better believe we will, and we're set up for it. And as you can see here, they're still just taking their time. Why aren't they going? So we'll go ahead and get you back with me here, and ever so the hard-working individual for America. I will keep you up to date in just a moment once they get it going on, and I'll share with you some of my proposals. And also, I'm just going to tell you, there's going to be times when I'm going to pause it and I'm going to come in. I mean, this is my version of the debate. They're not offering me a debate. I'm not on there. They don't even bother hearing about me. So the way we're going to do it then is just fine. That's just fine. We are just going to pause their portion, and I'll come on just as often as I need to, but I'm not going to break them up too much if I don't have to. But you better believe I'll be in this debate. So that's the way it's going to be. And let me just see here now where they're at with this thing.
Detention center
centers at the border. Plus, we're talking to a school counselor who was fired from her job.
And let me give you a visual here so you could see. We're going to search out the debate on YouTube. I just had it up, but apparently they don't have it going yet.
Police in Chicago have now released video of actor Jussie Smollett from the night he says he was attacked.
Any weapons or anything inside the apartment?
Chicago police releasing this.
As well as certifications. Secondly, I'd use Pell Grants. I'd double them from $6,000 to $12,000 a year and expand it to the number of families. That
Okay,
can
we're
come,
underway.
To families that make up to $100,000. And then the third thing I would do is make it easier for students to pay off their student loans. Because I can tell you this, if billionaires can pay off their yachts, students should be able to pay off their student loans.
That's time. Thank you. Congressman O'Rourke, what we've just been discussing and talking about is how much fundamental change to the economy is desirable and how much is actually doable. In that vein, some Democrats want a marginal individual tax rate of 70% on the very highest earners, those making more than $10 million a year. Would you support that? And if not, what would your top individual rate be?
This economy has got to work for everyone. And right now we know that it isn't. And it's going to take all of us coming together to make sure that it does. Necesitamos incluir cada persona en el éxito de esta economía. Pero si queremos hacer eso, necesitamos incluir cada persona en nuestra democracia. Cada votante necesitamos la representación y cada voz necesitamos escuchar. Right now, we have a system that favors those who can pay for access and outcomes. That's how you explain an economy that is rigged to corporations and to the very wealthiest. A $2 trillion tax cut that favored corporations while they were sitting on record piles of cash, and the very wealthiest in this country at a time of historic wealth inequality. A new democracy that is revived because we return power to the people, no PACs, no gerrymandering, automatic and same-day voter registration to bring in more voters, and a new Voting Rights Act to get rid of the barriers that are in place now. That's how we each have a voice in our democracy and make this economy work for everybody.
That's time, sir. I'll give you 10 seconds to answer. If you want to answer the direct question, would you support a 70% individual marginal tax rate? Yes, no, or pass?
I would support a tax rate and a tax code that is fair to everyone. Tax capital
70%?
At the same rate that you tax ordinary income. Take that corporate tax rate up to 28%. You would generate the revenues you need to pay for the programs we're talking about.
That's time. Thank you. Senator Booker, there is a debate in this party right now about the role of corporations, as you know. Senator Warren, in particular, put out a plan to break up tech companies like Facebook, Amazon, and Google. You've said we should not, quote, be running around pointing at companies and breaking them up without any kind of process. Why do you disagree?
I don't think I disagree. I think we have a serious problem in our country with corporate consolidation. And you see the evidence of that in how dignity is being stripped from labor. And we have people that work full-time jobs and still can't make a living wage. We see that because consumer prices are being raised by pharmaceutical companies that often have monopolistic holds on drugs. And you see that by just the fact that this is actually an economy that's hurting small businesses and not allowing them to compete. One of the most aggressive bills in the Senate to deal with corporate consolidation is mine about corporate consolidation in the ag sector. So I feel very strongly about the need to check the corporate consolidation and let the free market work. And I'll tell you this, I live in a low-income black and brown community. I see every single day that this economy is not working for average Americans. The indicators that are being used from GDP to Wall Street's rankings is not helping people in my community. It is about time that we have an economy that works for everybody, not just the wealthiest in our nation.
But quickly, Senator Booker, you did say that you didn't think it was right to name names, to name companies and single them out, as Senator Warren has. Briefly, why is that?
Well, again, I will single out companies like Halliburton or Amazon that pay nothing in taxes and our need to change that. And when it comes to antitrust law, what I will do is, number one, appoint judges that will enforce it. Number two, have a DOJ and a Federal Trade Commission that will go through the processes necessary to check this kind of corporate concentration. At the end of the day, we have too much of a problem with corporate power growing. We see that with everything from Citizens United and the way they're trying to influence Washington. It's about time that we have a president that fights for the people in this country.
That's time,
who
sir.
need to have someone that's a champion for them.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Warren, I mentioned you. Are you picking winners and losers?
So the way I understand this is there is way too much consolidation now in giant industries in this country. That hurts workers, it hurts small businesses, it hurts independent farmers, it hurts our economy overall, and it helps constrict real innovation and growth in this economy. Now look, we've had the laws out there for a long time to be able to fight back. What's been missing is courage. Courage in Washington to take on the giants. That's part of the corruption in this system. It has been far too long that the monopolies have been making the campaign contributions, have been funding the super PACs, have been out there making sure that their influence is heard and felt in every single decision that gets made in Washington. Where I want to start this is I want to return government to the people, and that means calling out the names of the monopolists and saying I have the courage to go after them.
Thank you.
Secretary Castro, the next question is for you. Democrats have been talking about the pay gap for decades. What would you do to ensure that women are paid fairly in this country?
Thank you very much for that question, Lester. You know, I grew up with a mother who raised my brother Joaquin and me as a single parent. And I know what it's like to struggle. I know what it's like to rent a home and to worry about whether you're going to be able to pay the rent at the first of the month, and to see a mom work very, very hard and know that moms across this country are getting paid less simply because they're women. I would do several things, starting with something we should have done a long time ago, which is to pass the Equal Rights Amendment, finally in this country, and also pursue legislation so that women are paid equal pay for equal work in this country. It's past time that we did that. And, you know, we have to do this. If we want to be the most prosperous nation in the 21st century, we need to make sure that women are paid what they deserve.
All right, thank you. I want to put the same question to Congresswoman Gabbard. Your thoughts on equal pay?
Yeah, well, first of all, let's recognize the situation we're in, that the American people deserve a president who will put your interests ahead of the rich and powerful. That's not what we have right now. I enlisted in the Army National Guard after the Al-Qaeda terror attacks on 9/11, so I could go after those who had attacked us on that day. I still serve as a major, served over 16 years, deployed twice to the Middle East, and in Congress serve on the Foreign Affairs and Armed Services Committees for over 6 years. I know the importance of our national security, as well as the terribly high cost of war. And for too long, our leaders have failed us, taking us from one regime change war to the next, leading us into a new Cold War and arms race, costing us trillions of our hard-earned taxpayer dollars and countless lives. This insanity must end. As president, I will take your hard-earned taxpayer dollars and instead invest those dollars into serving your needs. Things like health care, a green economy, good-paying jobs, protecting our environment, and so much more.
Mayor de Blasio, good evening. You're the mayor of the biggest city in the United States, but it's also one of the cities in the country with the greatest gap between the wealthy and the poor. How would you address income inequality?
Well, we've been addressing income inequality in New York City by raising wages, by raising benefits, by putting money back in the hands of working people. $15 minimum wage, paid sick days, pre-K for all, things that are making a huge difference in working people's lives. But let me tell you, what we're hearing here already in the first round of questions is that battle for the heart and soul of our party. I want to make it clear. This is supposed to be the party of working people. Yes, we're supposed to be for a 70% tax rate on the wealthy. Yes, we're supposed to be for free college, free public college for our young people. We are supposed to break up big corporations when they're not serving our democracy. This Democratic Party has to be strong and bold and progressive. And in New York, we've proven that we can do something very different. We can put money back in the hands of working people. And let me tell you, every time you talk about investing in people and their communities. You hear folks say there's not enough money. What I say to them every single time is there's plenty of money in this world. There's plenty of money in this country. It's just in the wrong hands. We Democrats have to fix that.
Congressman Delaney, do you agree?
I think we need to do real things to help American workers and the American people, right? This is the issue that all of us here on the campaign trail. We need to make sure everyone has a living wage. And I've called for a doubling of the earned income tax credit, raising the minimum wage, and creating paid family leave. That will create a situation where people actually have a living wage. That gets right to workers. Then we got to fix our public education system. It's not delivering the results our kids need, nor is college and post-high school career and technical training programs doing that. You know, I'm very different than everyone else here on the stage. Prior to being in Congress, I was an entrepreneur. I started 2 businesses. I created thousands of jobs. I spent my whole career helping small to mid-sized businesses all over the country. 5,000 of them I supported. The Obama administration gave me an award for lending to disadvantaged communities. I know how to create jobs. We need a short-term strategy, which is to put money in the pockets of workers with the earned income tax credit, raising the minimum wage and creating paid family leave. And then we need to have a long-term strategy to make sure this country is competitive and we're creating jobs everywhere in this country.
Governor Inslee, how would you address income inequality?
Well, I'm a little bit surprised. I think plans are great, but I'm a governor, and we got to realize the people who brought us the weekend, unions, are going to bring us a long overdue raise in America. And I'm proud of standing up for unions. I've got a plan to reinvigorate collective bargaining so we can increase wages finally. I marched with the SEIU folks. It is not right that the CEO of McDonald's makes 2,100 times more than the people slinging hash at McDonald's. And the next thing I'll do is put people to work in the jobs of the present and the future. Look at Donald Trump is simply wrong. He says wind turbines cause cancer. We know they cause jobs. And we know that we can put millions of people to work in the clean energy jobs of the future. Carpenters, IBEW's members, machinists. We're doing it in my state today. And then we can do what America always does. Lead the world and invent the future and put people to work. That's what we're going to do.
Congressman Ryan, President Trump, and you just referred to him, promised that manufacturing jobs were all coming back to places like your home state of Ohio. Can you make that same promise?
Yes, I believe you can. But first, let's say the president came, he said, don't sell your house to people in Youngstown, Ohio. And in his administration, just in the last 2 years, we lost 4,000 jobs at a General Motors facility. That rippled throughout our community. General Motors got a tax cut. General Motors got a bailout. And then they have the audacity to move a new car that they're going to produce to Mexico. I've had family members that have to unbolt a machine from the factory floor, put it in a box, and ship it to China. My area where I come from in Northeast Ohio, this issue we're talking about here, it's been going on 40 years. This is not a new phenomenon in the United States of America. The bottom 60% haven't seen a raise since 1980. Meanwhile, the top 1% control 90% of the wealth. We need an industrial policy saying we're going to dominate building electric vehicles. There's going to be 30 million made in the next 10 years. I want half of them made in the United States. I want to dominate the solar industry and manufacture those here in the United States.
Senator Warren, are they coming back? Are these jobs coming back?
So we've had an industrial policy in the United States for decades now, and it's basically been let giant corporations do whatever they want to do. Giant corporations have exactly one loyalty, and that is to profits. And if they can save a nickel by moving a job to Mexico or to Asia or to Canada, they're going to do it. So here's what I propose for an industrial policy. Start with a place where there's a real need. There's going to be a worldwide need for green technology, ways to clean up the air, ways to clean up the water. And we can be the ones to provide that. We need to go tenfold in our research and development on green energy going forward. And then we need to say, any corporation can come and use that research. They can make all kinds of products from it, but they have to be manufactured right here in the United States of America. And then we have to double down and sell it around the world. There's a $23 trillion market coming for green products. We should be the leaders and the owners, and we should have that 1.2 million manufacturing jobs here in America. We can do this.
All right, we're going to turn to the issue of health care right now and really try to understand where there may or may not be daylight between you. Many people watching at home have health insurance coverage through their employer. Who here would abolish their private health insurance in favor of a government-run plan? Just a show of hands to start off with. All right, well, Senator Klobuchar, let me put the question to you. You're one of the Democrats who wants to keep private insurance in addition to a government health care plan. Why is an incremental approach, in your view, better than a sweeping overhaul?
Well, I think it's a bold approach. It's something that Barack Obama wanted to do when we were working on the Affordable Care Act, and that is a public option. I am just simply concerned about kicking half of America off of their health insurance in 4 years, which is exactly what this bill says. So let me go on beyond that. There is a much bigger issue in addition to that, and that is pharmaceuticals. The president literally went on TV, on Fox, and said that people's heads would spin when they see how much he would bring down pharmaceutical prices. Instead, 2,500 drugs have gone up in double digits since he came into office. Instead, he gave $100 billion in giveaways to the pharma companies. For the rest of us, for the rest of America, that's what we call at home, all foam and no beer. We got nothing out of it. And so my proposal is to do something about pharma, to take them on, to allow negotiation under Medicare, to bring in less expensive drugs from other countries. And pharma thinks they own Washington. Well, they don't own me.
Your time is up. Thank you. Senator Warren, you signed on to Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All plan. It would put essentially everybody on Medicare and then eliminate private plans that offer similar coverage. Is that the plan or path that you would pursue as president?
So yes, I'm with Bernie on Medicare for All, and let me tell you why. I spent a big chunk of my life studying why families go broke. And one of the number one reasons is the cost of health care, medical bills. And that's not just for people who don't have insurance, it's for people who have insurance. Look at the business model of an insurance company. It's to bring in as many dollars as they can in premiums and to pay out as few dollars as possible for your health care. That leaves families with rising premiums, rising co-pays, and fighting with insurance companies to try to get the health care that their doctors say that they and their children need. Medicare for All solves that problem. And I understand there are a lot of politicians who say, oh, it's just not possible, we just can't do it, it's have a lot of political reasons for this. What they're really telling you is they just won't fight for it. Well, healthcare is a basic human right, and I will fight for basic human rights.
Congressman O'Rourke, when you ran for Senate, you also praised a bill that would replace private insurance. This year, you're saying you're no longer sure. Can you explain why?
My goal is to ensure that every American is well enough to live to their full potential because they have health care. In Laredo, Texas, I met a young man, 27 years old, told me that he'd been to a doctor once in his life. And on that visit, he was told he had diabetes, he was told he had glaucoma, and he was told untreated because he doesn't have health care, he'll be dead before the age of 40. So getting to guaranteed, high-quality, universal health care as quickly and surely as possible has to be our goal. The ability to afford your prescriptions and go to a primary care provider. The ability to see a mental health care provider. In Texas, the single largest provider of mental health care services is the county jail system today. And healthcare also has to mean that every woman can make her own decisions about her own body and has access to the care that makes that possible. Our plan says that if you're uninsured, we enroll you in Medicare. If you're insufficiently insured, you can't afford your premiums, we enroll you in Medicare. But if you're a member of a union that negotiated for a health care plan that you like because it works for you and your family, you're able to keep it. We preserve choice by making sure that everybody has health care.
Time is up, Congressman, but I do want to ask a follow-up on this one. Just to be very clear, I'll give you 10 seconds. Would you replace private insurance?
No, I think the choice is fundamental to our ability to get everybody care.
Private insurance is not working for tens of millions of Americans. When you talk about the co-pays, the deductibles, the premiums, the out-of-pocket expenses, it's not working. How can you defend a system that's not working?
They can choose Medicare. For the
Congressman,
culinary workers in
you
the
got to
who I
start by
listen to,
acknowledging
who
the system
negotiated
is
for
not
those
working
plans,
for people.
they're able to keep them.
Why are you
100 million
defending private
Americans
insurance?
say they like their private health insurance, by the way. It should be noted that 100 million Americans. I mean, I think we should be the party that keeps what's working and fixes what's broken. I mean, doesn't that make sense? I mean, we should give everyone in this country health care as a basic human right for free. Full stop. But we should also give them the option to buy private insurance. Why do we have to stand for taking away something from people? And also, it's bad policy. If you go to every hospital in this country and you ask them one question, which is, how would it have been for you last year if every one of your bills were paid at the Medicare rate? Every single hospital administrator said they would close. And the Medicare for All bill requires payments to stay at current Medicare rates. So to some extent, we're basically supporting a bill that will have every hospital close. I mean, my dad was a union electrician, right? I actually grew up in a working class family. He loved the health care that the IBEW gave him. And I just always think about my dad and anything I would do from a policy perspective. He'd look at me and he'd say, good job, John, for getting health care for every American. But why are you taking my health care
I've let this
away?
play out a little bit because I'm fascinated to hear the daylight between you. Congressman Gabbard,
Yes.
weigh in here.
I think we're talking about this in the wrong way. You're talking about one bill over another bill. Really what we're talking about is our objective, making sure that every single sick American in this country is able to get the health care that they need. I believe Medicare for All is the way to do that. I also think that employers will recognize how much money will be saved by supporting a Medicare for All program, a program that will reduce the administrative costs, reduce the bureaucratic costs, and make sure that everyone gets that quality health care that they need. I also think if you look at other countries in the world who have universal health care, every one of them has some form of a role of private insurance. I think that's what we've got to look at, taking the best of these ideas, but making sure unequivocally that no sick American goes without getting the care that they need, regardless of how much or little money they have in their pocket.
Congresswoman, thanks. Let me turn to Senator Booker on this. Senator Booker, explain to me where you are. This is hugely important to people, so tell us where you are.
I absolutely will. First of all, we're talking about this as a healthcare issue, but in communities like mine, low-income communities, this is an education issue because kids who don't have healthcare are not going to succeed in school. It is an issue for jobs and employment because people who do not have good healthcare do not succeed at work. It's even a retirement issue because in my community, African Americans have a lower life expectancy because of poorer healthcare. And so where I stand is very clear. Healthcare is not just a human right, it should be an American right. And I believe the best way to get there is Medicare for All. But I have an urgency about this. When I am president of the United States, I'm not going to wait. We have to do the things immediately that are going to provide better care. And on this debate, I'm sorry. There are too many people profiteering off of the pain of people in America, from pharmaceutical companies to insurers. Literally, the overhead for insurers that they charge is 15%, while Medicare's overhead is only at 2%. We can do this better, and every single day I will be fighting to give people more access at more affordable costs until we get to my goal, which is every American having health care.
Time is up, Senator. I want to move back, if I can, to Congressman Gabbard.
Points out, and that is that the insurance companies last year alone sucked $23 billion in profits out of the healthcare system. $23 billion, and that doesn't count the money that was paid to executives, the money that was spent lobbying Washington. We have a giant industry that wants our healthcare system to stay the way it is, because it's not working for families, but it's sure as heck working for them. It's time for us to make families come first.
It should not be an option in the United States of America for any insurance company to deny women coverage for their exercise of their right of choice. And I am the only candidate here who has passed a law protecting a woman's right of reproductive health and health insurance. And I'm the only candidate who has passed a public option. And I respect everybody's goals and plans here. But we do have one candidate that's actually advanced the ball. And we got to have access for everyone. I've done it as a public option.
Senator Klobuchar, I want to give you. I'm fascinated by this, Senator Klobuchar.
I just want to say there's 3 women up here that have fought pretty hard for a woman's right to choose. So I'll start with that. And then I just want to make very clear, I think we share the goal. of universal health care. And the idea I put out there, the public option, which the governor was just talking about, this idea is that you use Medicare or Medicaid without any insurance companies involved. You could do it either way. And the estimates are 13 million people would see a reduction in their premiums. 12 more million people would get covered. So I think it is a beginning, and the way you start and the way you move to universal health care.
Secretary Castro, this one is for you. All of you on stage support a woman's right to an abortion. You all support some version of a government health care option. Would your plan cover abortion, Mr. Secretary?
Yes, it would. I don't believe only in reproductive freedom. I believe in reproductive justice. And, you know, what that means is that just because a woman, or let's also not forget, someone in the trans community, a trans female, is poor, doesn't mean they shouldn't have the right to exercise that right to choose. And so I absolutely would cover the right to have an abortion. More than that, everybody in this crowd and watching at home knows that in our country today, a person's right to choose is under assault in places like Missouri, in Alabama, in Georgia. I would appoint judges to the federal bench that understand the precedent of Roe v. Wade and will respect it. And in addition to that, make sure that we fight hard as we transition our healthcare system to one where everybody can get and exercise that right.
Senator Warren, would you put limits on any limits on abortion?
I would make certain that every woman has access to the full range of reproductive health care services, and that includes birth control, it includes abortion, it includes everything for a woman. And I want to add on that, it's not enough for us to expect the courts to protect us. 47 years ago, Roe versus Wade was decided, and we've all looked to the courts all that time as state after state has undermined Roe, has put in exceptions, has come right up to the edge of taking away protection.
Your time is up, Senator.
We now have an America where most people support Roe versus Wade. We need to make that federal law.
Thank you. Jose?
Thank you. Senator Booker, I want to kind of come back on a discussion we were having about health and the opioid crisis. You represent a state where 14 of the 20 largest pharmaceutical companies are based. Should pharmaceutical companies that manufacture these drugs be held criminally liable for what they do?
They should absolutely be held criminally liable because they are liable and responsible. This is one of the reasons why, well before I was running for president, I said I would not take contributions from pharma companies, not take contributions from corporate PACs or pharma executives, because they are part of this problem. And this opioid addiction in our country, we in cities like mine have been seeing how we've tried to arrest our way out of addiction for too long. It is time that we have a national urgency to deal with this problem and make the solutions that are working to actually be the law of our land and make the pharmaceutical companies that are responsible help to pay for that.
Congressman O'Rourke, how would you deal?
Tonight in this country, you have 2.3 million of our fellow Americans behind bars. It's the largest prison population on the face of the planet. Many are there for nonviolent drug crimes, including possession of marijuana, at a time that more than half the states have legalized it or decriminalized it. And yet, despite what Purdue Pharma has done, their connection to the opioid crisis and the overdose deaths that we're seeing throughout this country, they've been able to act with complete impunity and pay no consequences, not a single night in jail. Unless there's accountability and justice, this crisis will continue. In my administration, we will hold them to account. We will make sure that they pay a price, and we will help those who've been victims of this malfeasance in this country, get them treatment and long-term care.
I know immigration is on a lot of your minds here, and I want to talk about it. We're going to talk about it in a moment. We need to take a break. We'll be back with more from Miami after this.
Oh, that is great. While they're on break.
Everyone, breaking news tonight from Washington.
Okay, while they're on break, I'm going to get your attention.
We begin tonight with the story. It sounds like a jet airplane up there, but that is fire.
Asking the questions you would ask.
What's it like flying into the hurricane zones? I've never seen anything like it.
Giving the context you need.
Let's talk about the MAX. How do you convince some skittish ass to get on this airplane?
Lester Holt,
We've met a lot of great people doing a lot of great things in their
the most
community.
trusted TV news anchor in America.
That's Nightly News. I'm Lester Holt.
Okay, so they're on break right now. So this is great. We have a great number of people tuned in right now, and that is a wonderful thing. And I'm just going to go ahead and put that on mute while I'm talking to you. And just on June 18th, your people's candidate announced, that's me. I'm your happy healer. It's great to get to know you. And let me tell you, we need a normal person that is in the top position. Somebody who gets the American people, because they live the same life, that they understand the drug epidemic because they have family, I'm really close to that has been through the drug epidemic. They have themselves been through it. It's dampening our souls. But then, like I said during the debate, these guys are missing the entire point. Capitalism is a problem in America. Folks, as soon as the debate comes on, I will cut back and it's coming in, so I'll talk to you later on and through it.
In the news, especially this week, there are undocumented children being held alone in detention. Even as close as Homestead, Florida, right here, less than 30 miles from where we are tonight. Fathers and mothers and children are dying while trying to enter the United States of America. We saw that image today that broke our hearts, and they had names. Oscar Martinez and his 23-month-old daughter Valeria died trying to cross the river to ask for asylum in this country. Last month, more than 130,000 migrants were apprehended at the southern border. Secretary Castro, if you were president today, hoy, what would you specifically do?
Thank you very much, Jose. I'm very proud that in April I became the first candidate to put forward a comprehensive immigration plan. And we saw those images. Watching that image of Oscar and his daughter Valeria is heartbreaking. It should also piss us all off. If I were president today, and it should spur us to action, if I were president today, I would sign an executive order that would get rid of Trump's zero tolerance policy, the Remain in Mexico policy, and the metering policy. This metering policy is basically what prompted Oscar and Valeria to make that risky swim across the river. They have been playing games with people who are coming and trying to seek asylum at our ports of entry. Oscar and Valeria went to a port of entry, and then they were denied the ability to make an asylum claim. So they got frustrated, and they tried to cross the river, and they died because of that.
On day one, sorry.
On day one, I would do that executive order that would address metering, and then I would follow that up in my first 100 days with immigration reform that would honor asylum claims, that would put undocumented immigrants, as long as they haven't committed a serious crime, on a pathway to citizenship, and that would go to the root cause of the issue, which is we need a Marshall Plan for Honduras and Guatemala and El Salvador, so that people can find safety and opportunity at home instead of coming to the United States to seek it.
Senator Booker, what would you do on day one? And this is a situation that the next president will inherit.
La situación ahora es inaceptable. Este presidente ha atacado, ha demonizado los inmigrantes. Es inaceptable. Voy a cambiar este. On day one, I will make sure that number one, we end the ICE policies and the customs and border policies that are violating the human rights. When people come to this country, they do not leave their human rights at the border. Number two, I will make sure that we reinstate DACA, that we reinstate pathways to citizenship for DACA recipients, and to make sure that people that are here on temporary protected status can stay and remain here. And then finally, we need to make sure that we address the issues that made Oscar and Valeria come in the first place by making major investments in the Northern Triangle, not like this president is doing, by ripping away the resources we need to actually solve this problem. We cannot surrender our values and think that we're going to get border security. We actually will lose security and our values. We must fight for both.
Jose, if I might, very briefly, and this is an important point. You know, my plan, and I'm glad to see that Senator Booker, Senator Warren, and Governor Inslee agree with me on this. My plan also includes getting rid of Section 1325 of the Immigration and Nationality Act, to go back to the way we used to treat this when somebody comes across the border, not to criminalize desperation, to treat that as a civil violation. And here's why it's important. We see all of this horrendous family separation. They use that law, Section 1325, to justify under the law separating little children from their families.
Jose,
and so I want to challenge every single candidate on this stage to support the repeal of Section 1325.
30 seconds. As my friend here said, I agree with him on that issue, but folks should understand that the separation of children from families doesn't just go on at our border. It happens in our communities as ICE are ripping away parents from their American children, spouses and the like, and are creating fear in cities all across this country where parents are afraid to even drop their kids off to school or go to work. We must end those policies as well.
Discussion about immigration in this country, because look at the bottom line here. That tragic photo of that parent, that child. And I'm saying this as a father. Every American should feel that in their heart, and every American should say that is not America. Those are not our values, but we have to get under the skin of why we have this crisis in our system, because we're not being honest about the division that's been fomented in this country. The way that American citizens have been told that immigrants somehow created their misery and their pain and their challenges. For all the American citizens out there who feel you're falling behind, who feel the American dream's not working for you, the immigrants didn't do that to you. The big corporations did that to you. The 1% did that to you. We need to be the party of working people, and that includes a party of immigrants. But first, we have to tell working people in America who are hurting that we're going to be on their side every single time against those big corporations who created this mess to begin with. And remind people we're all in this together. If we don't change that debate, that politics that's holding us back, we won't get all these reforms people are talking about. That's what we need to do as Democrats.
Congresista, if I could, I'm sorry. Congresista O'Rourke, ¿qué haría usted en el primer día, si usted es presidente, sobre esta realidad que está ocurriendo? What would you do, Congressman, day one at the White House?
Vamos a tratar cada persona con el respeto y dignidad que merecen como humanos. We would not turn back Valeria and her father, Oscar. We would accept them into this country and follow our own asylum laws. We would not build walls. We would not put kids in cages. In fact, we would spare no expense to reunite the families that have been separated already.
Congressman,
and we would not criminally prosecute any family who is fleeing violence
for the repeal
and
of
persecution.
Section 1325.
We would make sure.
Secretary, let him finish, and I will give you
his policy.
But let him finish. Let him finish, please. Yes.
We would not detain any family fleeing violence, in fact, fleeing the deadliest countries on the face of the planet today. We would implement a family case management program so they could be cared for in the community at a fraction of the cost. And then we would rewrite our immigration laws in our own image. Free dreamers forever from any fear of deportation by making them U.S. citizens here in this country. Invest in solutions in Central America, work with regional stakeholders so there's no reason to make that 2,000-mile journey to this country.
Secretary, I'll give you 30 seconds.
Let's be very clear. The reason that they're separating these little children from their families is that they're using Section 1325 of that act, which criminalizes coming across the border, to incarcerate the parents and then separate them. Some of us on this stage have called to end that section, to terminate it. Some, like Congressman O'Rourke, have not. And I want to challenge all of the candidates to do that. I just think it's a mistake, Bethel. I think it's a mistake. And I think that if you truly want to change the system, then we got to repeal that section. If not, then it might as well be the same policy.
Let me respond to this very briefly. Actually, as a member of Congress, I helped to introduce legislation that would ensure that we don't criminalize those who are seeking asylum and refuge in this country. If you're fleeing desperation, then I want to make sure that you're treated with respect.
I'm still talking about everybody else.
But you're looking at just one small part of this. I'm talking about a comprehensive rewrite of our immigration laws.
That's not true.
And if we do that, I don't think it's asking
that's actually not true. I'm talking about
our laws.
I'm talking about millions of folks A lot of folks that are coming are not seeking asylum. A lot of them are undocumented immigrants, right? And you said recently that the reason you didn't want to repeal Section 1325 was because you were concerned about human trafficking and drug trafficking. But let me tell you what, Section 18, Title 18 of the U.S. Code, Title 21 and Title 22 already cover human trafficking. I think that you should do your homework on this issue. If you did your homework on this issue, you would know that we should repeal this section.
This is an issue that we should and could be talking about for a long time, and we will for a long time.
Can we talk about the conditions and why people are coming here?
Let's Lester,
because
Savannah. I know it's just we could go on.
But rather than talk about specific provisions, we really have to talk about why these people are coming to our country and what are we going to do to actually make a difference in these countries.
Congressman, you'll get your chance. Let's continue the discussion. Senator Klobuchar, let's talk about what Secretary Castro just said. He wants to no longer have it be a crime to illegally cross the border. Do you support that? Do you think it should be a civil offense only? And if so, do you worry about potentially incentivizing people to come here?
Immigrants, they do not diminish America. They are America. And I am happy to look at his proposal, but I do think you want to make sure that you have provisions in place that allow you to go after traffickers and allow you to go after people who are violating the law. What I really think we need to step back and talk about is the economic imperative here. And that is that 70 of our Fortune 500 companies are headed up by people that came from other countries. 25% of our U.S. Nobel laureates were born in other countries. We have a situation right now where we need workers in our fields and in our factories. We need them to start small businesses. We need their ideas. And this president has literally gone backwards at a time where our economy needs immigrants. And so my proposal is to look at that 2013 bill that passed the Senate with Republican support, to upgrade that bill, to make it as good as possible and get it done. It brings the debt down by $158 billion. It gives a path to citizenship for people who can become citizens. And it would be so much better for our economy in America.
That's time. Thank you. Congressman Ryan, same question. Should it be a crime to illegally cross the border, or should it be a civil offense only?
Well, I agree with Secretary Castro. I think there are other provisions in the law that will allow you to prosecute people for coming over here if they're dealing in drugs and other things. That's already established in the law. So there's no need to repeat it. And I think it's abhorrent. We're talking about this father who got killed with his daughter. And the issues here, the way these kids are being treated, if you go to Guantanamo Bay, there are terrorists that are held that get better health care than those kids that have tried to cross the border in the United States. That needs to stop. And I think the president should immediately ask doctors and nurses to go immediately down to the border and start taking care of these kids. What kind of country are we running here where we have a president of the United States who's so focused on hate and fear and division? And what has happened now, the end result, is now we've got kids literally laying in their own snot with 3-week-old diapers that haven't been changed. We've got to tell this president that is not a sign of strength, Mr. President. That is a sign of weakness.
Senator Booker, I'll go to you. But no, a lot of people, Jose asked the question, if you're president on day one, what will you do with the fact that you will have families here? There's been a lot of talk about what you'll do in the first 100 days, about legislation. What will you actually do with these families? How will you care for them? Will they be detained or will they not be?
Well, this is a related and brief point, because what we're talking about, what Secretary Castro and I are talking about, is that we have the power to better deal with this problem through the civil process than the criminal process. I have been to some of the largest private prisons, which are repugnant to me, that people are profiting off incarceration and their immigration lockups. Our country has made so many mistakes by criminalizing things, whether it's immigration, whether it's mental illness, whether it's addiction. We know that this is not the way to deal with problems. There is a humane way that affirms human rights and human dignity and actually solve this problem. Donald Trump isn't solving this problem. We've seen under his leadership a surge at our border. We solve this problem by making investments in the Northern Triangle to stop the reasons why people are being driven here in the first place. And we make sure we use our resources to provide health care, to affirm the values and human dignity of the people that come here. Because we cannot sacrifice our values, our ideals as a nation for border security. We can have both by doing this the right way.
All right, Senator, thank you. Let me go to Governor Inslee on this. What would you do on day one? Same question I just asked Cory Booker. I have yet to hear an answer from anyone on this stage. What will you do with the families that will be here?
There is no reason for the detention and separation of these children. They should be released pending their hearings, and they should have a hearing and the law should be followed. That's what should happen. And we should do what we're doing in Washington State. I'm proud that we've passed a law that prevents local law enforcement from being turned into mini ICE agents. I'm proud to have been the first governor to stand up against Donald Trump's heinous Muslim ban. I'm proud to be a person who's not only talked about Dreamers, but being one of the first to make sure that they get a college education so that they can realize their dreams. These are some of the most inspirational people in our state. And I'll leave you with this thought if you want to know what I think. Donald Trump the other day tried to threaten me. He thought it was a threat to tell me that he would send refugees in Washington State if we passed the law that I passed. And I told him that's not a threat at all. We welcome refugees into our state. We recognize diversity as a strength. This is how we built America. That tradition is going to continue if I'm president of the United States.
We're going to switch to another topic now. We've got a lot to get through. Let's talk.
My grandfather was actually separated from his family when he came to this country.
We're going to talk about Iran right now because we're working against the clock. Tankers have been attacked. A U.S. drone has been shot down. There have been disturbing threats issued by both the U.S. and Iranian leadership. I'd like, if you can, just for a moment, to put aside how you think we may have gotten here. But what I want to know is how do you dial it back? So a show of hands, who as president would sign on to the 2015 nuclear deal as it was originally negotiated? That's it. Well, Senator Booker, why not?
May I address that? First and foremost, it was a mistake to pull out of that deal. And one of the reasons why we're seeing this hostility now is because Donald Trump is marching us to a far more dangerous situation. Literally, he took us out of a deal that gave us transparency into their nuclear program and pushed back a nuclear breakout 10, 20 years. And now we see Iran threatening to go further, and we're being pulled in further and further into this crisis. We need to renegotiate and get back into a deal, but I'm not going to have a primary platform to say unilaterally I'm going to rejoin that deal, because when I'm president of the United States, I'm going to do the best I can to secure this country and that region and make sure that if I have an opportunity to leverage a better deal, I'm going to do it.
All right, Senator Klobuchar, I'd like you to answer the question because you said you would negotiate yourself back into the Iranian agreement. Can you argue that nuclear pact, as it was ratified, was a good deal?
Yes, it was.
It was imperfect, but it was a good deal for that moment. I would have worked to get longer sunset periods, and that's something we could negotiate to get back in the deal. But the point is, Donald Trump told us when he got out of it that he was going to give us a better deal. Those were his words. And now we are a month away from the Iranians who claim now that they're going to blow the caps on enriching uranium. And the Iranians have told us this. And so that's where we are right now. He has made us less safe than we were when he became president. So what I would do is negotiate us back into that agreement, is stand with our allies and not give unlimited leverage to China and Russia, which is what he has done. And then, finally, I would make sure that if there is any possibility of a conflict, and we're having this debate in Congress right now, that he comes to Congress for an authorization of military force. I would do that. And this president is literally every single day 10 minutes away from going to war, one tweet away from going to war, and I don't think we should conduct foreign policy in our bathrobe at 5 in the morning.
Congresswoman Gabbard, you've said you would sign back onto the 2015 deal. Would you insist though that it address Iran's support for Hezbollah?
Let's deal with the situation where we are, where this president and his chicken hawk cabinet have led us to the brink of war with Iran. I served in the war in Iraq at the height of the war in 2005, a war that took over 4,000 of my brothers and sisters in uniforms' lives. The American people need to understand that this war with Iran would be far more devastating, far more costly than anything that we ever saw in Iraq. It would take many more lives. It would exacerbate the refugee crisis, and it wouldn't be just contained within Iran. This would turn into a regional war. This is why it's so important that every one of us, every single American, stand up and say, no war with Iran. We need to get back into the Iran nuclear agreement, and we need to negotiate how we can improve it. It was an imperfect deal. There are issues like their missile development that needs to be addressed. We can do both simultaneously to prevent Iran from developing a nuclear weapon and preventing us from going to war.
Time is up. I have just a very quick follow-up. Well, what would your red line be for military action against Iran?
Look, obviously, if there was an attack against the American, our troops, then there would have to be a response. But my point is, and it's important for us to recognize this, is Donald Trump and his cabinet, Mike Pompeo, John Bolton, and others, are creating a situation that just a spark would light off a war with Iran, which is incredibly dangerous. That's why we need to de-escalate tensions. Trump needs to get back into the Iran nuclear deal and swallow his pride, put the American people first.
Hey, but wait a minute.
All right, we are out of time and we're up against a hard break, but we will have much more. Mayor de Blasio will have more. The commercial is coming. We will continue our questioning next with Chuck Todd, Rachel Maddow. Stick around. We'll have a lot more with some very anxious candidates.
Alrighty then. So I see a lot of you guys are triggered. That is just fantabulous, because I'm going to go ahead and take it back. I lied to you. Not really lied to you. I just see it's necessary, baby. It is necessary.
On the 2020 election. Continue to follow the latest.
And we're just going to quiet that down for a second. They'll be back in just a moment. And then don't worry, you'll have your condescending candidates, the ones you love. I know you don't have any love for your happy healer because you're all triggered. I say one thing, and you get triggered! And you're not ready for winning, that's for sure, because you put Hillary in the last time, and now this time you want to put somebody else in, make your choice, whomever you want it to be, and they're not going to be Trump. Because there's a lot of moderates out there who love God, just like me, just like your happy healer, who is a normal guy. That's right, a normal guy. Unlike these condescending candidates, you Democrats, I'm a Democrat, you forgot about me, didn't you? And you just leave us behind. But you think you're going to win again, but I'm here to tell you, folks, if we don't do things differently, and I mean right now, we got to get away from the people like Biden. Are you kidding me? And then we have recently out there your Mayor Pete. He's gay, just like your happy healer, Keith Landy for president, except for he is so passive. My goodness. He's approached by one of his own people, and he can't handle the heat. No, he can't. He can't console him. He can't say, you know, we're all children of God. It's really the new world where we're all headed. It's because the racism will never go away as so long as that you take the greed from capitalism and you hold greed in every aspect of your life. It's just not going to work. But yet, you keep doing the same thing over and over again, don't you? And that, my friends, is the definition of a crazy person. And while you call me crazy, you just don't even have the first clue, because I see the truth. I love only. I have no time for hate, because hate is what is destroying our country. Oh yeah. And you know I'm right. Many of you have already been triggered. Many of you are sticking around because you know the truth when you hear the truth. And by the way, I'm going to get Trump's people. You got to elect somebody who can pull Trump's people. Yes, you do. Biden's not going to do that. Trump is going to lay hard on him about touching little kids. You don't see that already? Wake up, guys. Wake up. All right, we're putting back on the debate. They're not on it yet, but we're going to switch to it. And I'm going to have my closing statements. Hang out for them. Do not be 8-second warriors. Don't be people who can't handle the truth.
As president, we say it speaks to polarization. It also speaks to, look, this is somebody who succeeded as a candidate in 2016 despite some very
very high negative numbers. What I mean by that is, look at this, the exit poll on Election Day. Do you think Donald Trump's qualified to be president? Only 38% said they thought he was qualified for the job. The clear majority said Trump wasn't qualified. Does he have the temperament? 35% said he had the temperament. Do you like him? Do you have a favorable view? Only 40% did. You're not supposed to be able to win with those numbers. Trump was one of the big reasons his opponent, Hillary Clinton, by Election Day 2016, almost as unpopular as he was, only 43% favorable. It created that narrow path for Trump, and that becomes the question when you look at that approval rating now in 2020. Can he make his opponent as unpopular on Election Day as Clinton was in 2016?
Good evening, everyone. Breaking news tonight.
Lester Holt.
It sounds like a jet airplane up there, but that is fire. Let's talk about the MAX. How do you convince a skittish passenger to get on this airplane? We've met a lot of great people.
The most trusted TV news anchor in America.
That's Nightly News. I'm Lester Holt. Democratic presidential debate from the Arts Center in Miami.
And as we continue the questioning, time to get more members of our team in the mix.
So right now, let's turn it over to Chuck Todd and Rachel Maddow. Take it away.
All right, we're going to start by recapping the rules. 20 candidates qualified for this first Democratic debate. We're going to hear from 10 tonight, 10 more tomorrow. The breakdown for each night was selected at random. Now, the candidates will have 60 seconds to answer, 30 seconds for a follow-up if necessary, and we will be ruthless if necessary.
Yeah, we can do that. By the way, hi, Rachel.
Hi, Chuck.
How you doing? Good. And we've got a lot of ground to cover. We're going to be talking about guns and climate here up top. A whole lot more in this hour. Obviously, because of the size of the field, not every person will be able to weigh in on everything, but over the course of this next hour, we will hear from everyone. I promise everybody. And to begin with, we're going to go with guns. And Senator Warren, I want to start with you. We are less than 50 miles from Parkland, Florida, where 17 people were killed in a school shooting last year, and where there has been significant activism on gun violence ever since. Many of you are calling for a restoration of an assault weapons ban. But even if implemented, there will still be hundreds of millions of guns in this country. Should there be a role for the federal government?
Mics are on.
Everybody's mics are on. I think we have I heard that too. That's okay. I think we had a little mic issue in the back.
Control room, we've got contrary
we heard, yeah, we have the audience audio. All right. So the question is simply this. I apologize you guys didn't get to hear this, the first part of the question. Obviously, we're not far from Parkland, Florida. Gun activism has become a big part of high school life up there in Broward County. Many of you are calling for tighter gun restrictions. Some of you are calling for the restoration of the assault weapons ban. But even if it's put in place, there's still going to be perhaps hundreds of millions of guns still on the streets. Is there a role for the federal government in order to get these guns off the streets?
What's happening?
We are hearing our colleagues' audio. If the control room could turn off the mics. Yeah, if the control room could turn off the mics of our previous moderators, we will.
I think it's the prior moderator.
You know, we prepared for everything.
Guess what, guys?
We did not prepare for
We are going to take a quick break. We're going to get this technical situation fixed. We will be right back.
Look at them. All their money, all their privilege, all their everything, and they can't even do what your happy healer does. And that is to say, to come on and put on a quality program that's designed behind getting truth to you, the American people, and also, by the way, our families. I mean, they just threw on a commercial, so I'm filling in the airtime. Lord knows they might be away for a bit this time. They're screwing up their systems over there. But what else could it be? Really, right? Because, is this them coming back? All right, I'm going to put him back.
And remember, of course, by the popular vote, Hillary Clinton had almost 3 million more of those than Donald Trump. But we don't elect the president by national popular vote. We do it by the Electoral College, and there Donald Trump had the right combination of votes in the right states, enough to win 306 electoral votes for him. So how is that map looking for 2020? Well, first of all, I think one thing you need to do, just understand how narrow that Trump path was in the Electoral College in 2016. You can start by looking at Wisconsin. Look at that margin there. Fewer than 25,000 votes separated Clinton from Trump in Wisconsin. This was a state that had not gone for a Republican in a presidential election since 1984 by a margin of fewer than 25,000 votes. Trump becomes the first in over 3 decades. He gets Wisconsin. The margin in Michigan even closer, barely 10,000 votes. Trump over Clinton, and again, that's the first time since '88 that a Republican carried Michigan. And then there was Pennsylvania here, about 44,000 votes. That's the margin for Trump over Clinton in Pennsylvania. Trump wins all 3 of those states: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, by a combined total of about 75,000 votes. That's it, but that's enough to win the Electoral College. So for Democrats, if they want to reverse the result of 2016, that is the easiest and most direct path, at least on paper. You flip those states where Trump's margin was the narrowest, those states that had been voting Democratic before 2016, you flip them back, you win the Electoral College, if everything else stays the same. So that's the most direct path for Democrats, at least on paper. But hey, things can change over the course of a few years. There are other states to be keeping an eye on as well. I'll give you an example. Perfect one right here. Florida. We always talk about Florida, right? Remember Florida from back in 2000. Well, here's one. Again, Donald Trump was somewhat of a surprise on election night. I think the Clinton campaign had been feeling decent about Florida, but Trump pulled out Florida in 2016. 29 electoral votes right there. We obviously expect to be very competitive in 2020. If the Democrats can flip Florida, just given the size of the state, that is a massive change. The one cautionary note for Democrats, though, they had a big year in the 2018.
Yeah, this is not them. They're still having their problems. So while we have it going so you can see their visuals, I'm just going to talk to you a little bit and use this opportunity. And as soon as it comes on, we'll just shift right back over to them. In fact, you can hear them in the background. So we are working towards a new world, guys. We have been dealing with problems for so long, and so many of us, and our families without health care. I had my mother die. She died in 2012. She didn't have health care for the last 6 years of her life. She finally got it, and it was too late. She had way too many problems by then. And that is just so many of us. And the same is true for my father. He passed away in 1998. And I know these stories are the same stories many of you have. And my brother, he passed away last year from the drug epidemic. And so many other people I know have suffered from the drug epidemic, including myself. I have firsthand experience having... Oh, here they are. Okay, guys, let's do this. And I'll be on a future one. You'll see it.
We believe we have the technical difficulties fixed.
Never say that.
Never say never. But we will march forward here, and I will lean forward here a little bit. Senator Warren, we're going to get to the gun question here. Parkland, Florida. It's just north of here in Broward County. As you know, it has created a lot of teenage activism on the gun issue. It has inspired a lot of you to come out with more robust plans to deal with guns, including assault weapons ban. But even if you're able to implement that, what do you do about the hundreds of millions of guns already out there? And does the federal government have to play a role in dealing with it?
So, in this period of time that I've been running for president, I've had more than 100 town halls. I've taken more than 2,000 unfiltered questions. And the single hardest question I've gotten, I got one from a little boy and I got one from a little girl. And that is to say, when you're president, how are you going to keep us safe? That's our responsibility as adults. 7 children will die today from gun violence, children and teenagers. And they won't just die in mass shootings. They'll die on sidewalks, they'll die in playgrounds, they'll die in people's backyards. Gun violence is a national health emergency in this country, and we need to treat it like that. So what can we do? We can do the things that are sensible. We can do the universal background checks. We can ban the weapons of war. But we can also double down on the research and and find out what really works, where it is that we can make the differences at the margins that will keep our children safe. We need to treat this like the virus that's killing our children.
You didn't address, do you think the federal government needs to go and figure out a way to get the guns that are already out there?
What I think we need to do is we need to treat it like a serious research problem, which we have not done. You know, guns in the hands of a collector who's had them for decades, who's never fired them, who takes safety seriously, that's very different from guns that are sold and turned over quickly. We can't treat this as an across-the-board problem. We have to treat it like a public health emergency. That means bring data to bear, and it means make real change in this country, whether it's politically popular or not.
Senator Booker, you have a program.
Fight for our children.
Senator Booker, you have a federal government buyback program in your plan. How is that going to work?
Well, first of all, I want to say my colleague and I both have been hearing this on the campaign trail. But what's even worse is I hear gunshots in my neighborhood. I think I'm the only one, I hope I'm the only one on this panel here that had 7 people shot in their neighborhood just last week. Someone I knew, Shahad Smith, was killed with an assault rifle at the top of my block last year. For millions of Americans, this is not a policy issue. This is an urgency. And for those who have not been directly affected, they're tired of living in a country where their kids go to school to learn about reading, writing, and arithmetic, and how to deal with an active shooter in their school. This is something that I'm tired of, and I'm tired of hearing people, all they have to offer is thoughts and prayers. In my faith, people say faith without works is dead. So we will find a way. But the reason we have a problem right now is we've let the corporate gun lobby frame this debate. It is time that we have bold actions and a bold agenda. I will get that done as President of the United States because this is not about policy, this is personal.
Thank you, Senator Booker.
Secretary Castro, I'd like to talk to you about something that Senator Booker just mentioned there, the idea of active shooter drills in schools. As school shootings seem like an almost every day or every week occurrence now, they don't make a complete news cycle anymore, no matter the death toll. As parents are so afraid as their kids go off to school that their kids will be caught up in something like this, next to nothing has changed in federal law that might affect the prevalence of school shootings. Is this a problem that is going to continue to get worse over our lifetimes, or is there something that you would do as president that you really think would turn it around?
Yeah, Rachel, I'm the dad of a 10-year-old girl, Karina, who's here tonight. And the worst thing is knowing that your child might be worried about what could happen at school, a place that's supposed to be safe. The answer to your question is no, we don't have to accept that. And I believe that on January 20th, 2021, at 12:01 p.m., we're going to have a Democratic president, a Democratic House, and a Democratic Senate. The activists of Parkland, folks from Moms Demand, who have risen up across the United States and inspired so many people. You know, we may not have seen yet legislative action, but we're getting closer. The House took a vote. In the Senate, the question often is if the decision is between 60 votes, a filibuster, or passing common sense gun reform, I'm going to choose common sense gun reform. So I believe that we're going to be able to get that done in 2021.
Secretary Castro, thank you.
Rachel, I have something to add to this briefly.
We'll give you 30 seconds for follow-up on that question, on that answer from Secretary Castro. Congressman Ryan.
You're talking about in the schools. These kids are traumatized. I support all the gun reforms here. We need to start dealing with the trauma that our kids have. We need trauma-based care in every school. We need social and emotional learning in every school. 90% of the shooters who do school shootings come from the school they're in, and 73% of them feel shamed, traumatized, or bullied. We need to make sure that these kids feel connected to the school. That means a mental health counselor in every single school in the United States. We need to start playing offense. If our kids are so traumatized that they're getting a gun and going into our schools, we're doing something wrong too, and we need reform around trauma-based care.
Congressman O'Rourke, you're a Texan who's you campaigned all over the state in 2018 in the most conservative parts there. What do you tell a gun owner who may agree with you on everything else? Okay, but says, you know what, the Democrats, if I vote for them in there, they're going to take my gun away. And even though I agree with you on all these other issues, how do you have that conversation?
here's how we had that conversation in Texas. I shared with them what I learned from those students who survived the Santa Fe High School shooting. A young student named Bree, her friend Marcel, who survived another shooting, the mother of a victim who lost her life, Rhonda Hart. They talked about universal background checks where you close every loophole. We know that they save lives. Talked about ending the sales of assault weapons into our communities. Those weapons of war were designed to kill people as effectively and as efficiently as possible. They should belong on the battlefield and not in our communities. Red flag laws, so that if someone poses a danger to themselves or to someone else, they're stopped before it's too late. And what I found in each one of those 254 counties is that Democrats and independents and Republicans, gun owners and non-gun owners alike agreed. But this effort must be led by the young people that you referenced at the beginning of this issue. Those students from Marjory Stoneman Douglas led the charge here in Florida, and they've been able to change those laws. They're making our democracy work, ensuring that our values and our interests and our priorities are reflected in the laws that we pass.
Thank you, Congressman O'Rourke. Hang on. Let me give 30 seconds. Senator Klobuchar, Iron Range, I'm curious. Gun confiscation, right? If the government is buying back, how do you not have that conversation?
Well, that's not confiscation. You would give them the offer to buy back their gun. But I'll say this. I look at these proposals and I say, does this hurt my Uncle Dick in his deer stand, coming from a proud hunting and fishing state? These proposals don't do that. When I was a prosecutor, I supported the assault weapon ban. When I was in the Senate, I saw those moms from Sandy Hook come and try to advocate for change, and we all failed. And then now these Parkland kids from Florida, they started literally a national shift. You know why? It's just like with gay marriage. When kids talk to their parents and their grandparents, they say, I don't understand why we can't put these sensible things in place. They listen. And if we get bested by a bunch of 17-year-olds, it's the best thing that ever happened. We need to get
Senator Booker, let me go to you on another matter, actually. Senator Mitch McConnell says that his most consequential achievement as Senate Majority Leader was preventing President Obama from filling a Supreme Court seat. Having served with Republicans on the Judiciary Committee, do you believe they would confirm your court nominees?
I'm going to use 20 of my seconds just to say there's one thing we don't all agree with when it comes to guns, and I think it's common sense, and over 70% of Americans agree with me. If you need a license to drive a car, you should need a license to buy and own a firearm. And not everybody in this field agrees with that, but in states like Connecticut that did that, they saw 40% drops in gun violence and 15% drops in suicides. We need to start having bold agendas on guns. When it comes to the Supreme Court, very clearly, I agree with my friend, Secretary Castro, we are going to get to 50 votes in the Senate. This is a team sport. Whoever is our nominee needs to campaign in places like South Carolina because we can elect Jamie Harrison. They need to campaign in places like Iowa because we can win a Senate seat there. This is about getting us back to having 50 votes in the Senate and more so that we can not only balance the Supreme Court, but start to pass an aggressive agenda that frankly isn't so aggressive because most of America agrees with the policy objectives of our party.
Mayor de Blasio, I want to jump in here for a follow-up. Mayor de Blasio,
we have to actually...
Congressman Delaney, you'll have some time in a moment on this issue. Congressman Delaney, I'll give you some time in a moment. Mayor de Blasio, as an executive in the largest city in this country, you are used to saying what you want to have happen and having it happen. If you nominate a Supreme Court nominee as President of the United States and Mitch McConnell is still Senate Majority Leader, what makes you believe that he would allow you to make a nominee?
Rachel, I am chief executive of the nation's largest city, and I also want to just say something quick on the gun issue and come to your question. Look, I run the largest police force in America, too, and if we're going to stop these shootings, we're going to get these guns off the street, we have to have a very different relationship between our police and our community. I also want to say there's something that sets me apart from all my colleagues running in this race, and that is for the last 21 years, I've been raising a black son in America. And I have had to have very, very serious talks with my son Dante about how to protect himself on the streets of our city and all over this country, including how to deal with the fact that he has to take special caution because there have been too many tragedies between our young men and our police, too, as we saw recently in Indiana. So we need to have a different conversation in this country about guns, but also a different conversation about policing that brings police and community together. We've done that in New York City, and we've driven down crime while we've done it. But to your question about Mitch McConnell, there's a political solution that we have to come to grips with. If the Democratic Party would stop acting like the party of the elites and be the party of working people again and go into states, including red states, to convince people we're on their side, we can put pressure on their senators to actually have to vote for the nominees that are put forward. Decent jurists deserve that right.
Thank you, Mayor de Blasio.
Senator Warren, I'm going to get you. I will get you 30 seconds. I promise. Let me get this question. We're trying. I know you guys. We got other issues we're trying to get to, including a big one coming up in a minute. But Senator Warren, I want to continue on the Mitch McConnell thing because you have a lot of ambitious plans. You have a plan for that. Okay. We talked about the Supreme Court. Do you have a plan to deal with Mitch McConnell if you don't beat him in the Senate? If he's still sitting there as the Senate Majority Leader, it's very plausible you be elected president with a Republican Senate. Do you have a plan to deal with Mitch McConnell?
I do. We are a democracy, and the way a democracy is supposed to work is the will of the people matters. Now, we for far too long have had a Congress in Washington that has just completely dismissed what people care about across this country. They have made this country work much better for those who can make giant contributions, made it work better for those who hire armies of lobbyists and lawyers, and not made it work for the people. Well, here's how I see this happening. Number one, sure, I want to see us get a Democratic majority in the Senate. But short of a Democratic majority in the Senate, you better understand the fight still goes on. It starts in the White House, and it means that everybody we energize in 2020 stays on the front lines come January 2021. We have to push from the outside, have leadership from the inside, and make this Congress reflect the will of the people.
I'm going to get a couple of you in here. I'm going to get you a couple in here. 30 seconds. Congressman Delaney, you seem to believe you can do everything in a bipartisan manner. Mitch McConnell doesn't operate that way. He operates differently. Why do you think he is going to conform to your style?
I think we need to get things done. That's why I believe we need to operate in a bipartisan manner. Listen, I'll sign into law bills that come to the White House that are passed on a party line basis, absolutely. But all the big transformative things we've ever done in this country's history have happened when huge majorities of the American people get behind them, which is why we need real solutions, not impossible promises. We need to put forth ideas that work, whether it's on health care, creating universal health care so that every American gets health care, but not running on making private insurance illegal. The gun issue is related. The gun safety issue is related because I can't tell you how many times I've been with folks in Western Maryland, and they've said to me, you know, Democrats don't do anything for us, Republicans don't do anything for us. You fight all the time, so they vote on that single issue. If we become the party of getting things done for the American people with real solutions, not impossible promises, we'll be able to get all these things done.
I promise 2 30s here. I'm going to say, Senator Booker, 30 seconds. How do you deal with Mitch McConnell? You've been in the Senate. You can't get bills on the floor right now with Mitch McConnell. Presidents can't do it. Is President Booker going to get his bills on the floor with Senator McConnell?
You know, when I got to the United States Senate, going back to what de Blasio said, as an African-American man in an African-American dominated community, I knew one of the biggest issues was criminal justice reform. From police accountability to dealing with the fact that we have a nation that has more African-Americans under criminal supervision than all the slaves in 1850. And when I got to the Senate, people told me we could not get a comprehensive criminal justice reform bill done. And as my colleagues in the Senate know, I fought on that bill from the day I got to the Senate, built coalitions across the aisle, and today we passed the First Step Act. It's not as far as I want to go, but thousands of people will be liberated. I've taken on tough problems people said we cannot achieve, and I've been able to get things accomplished.
Thank you, Senator Booker. Rachel's got the next question.
Hold on, Governor, you're going to be happy with where we go. Governor Inslee, this next question is to you. You got me? You got me? You have staked your candidacy on the issue of climate change. It is first, second, and third priority for you. You said it's all the issues. Let's get specific. We're here in Miami, which is already experiencing serious flooding on sunny days as a result of sea level rise. Parts of Miami Beach and the Keys could be underwater in our lifetimes. Does your plan save Miami?
Yes, first by taking away the filibuster from Mitch McConnell to start with. We have to do that. Look at. We are the first generation to feel the sting of climate change. and we are the last that can do something about it. Our towns are burning, our fields are flooding, Miami is inundated. And we have to understand, this is a climate crisis, an emergency. And it is our last chance in the administration, next one, to do something about it. And we need to do what I've done in my state. We've passed a 100% clean electrical grid bill. We now have a vision statement, and my plan has been called the gold standard of putting people to work. But the most important thing on this, and the biggest decision for the American public, is who is going to make this the first priority. And I am the candidate and the only one who's saying this has to be the top priority of the United States, the organizing principle to mobilize the United States so that we can do what we've always done, lead the world and invent the future and put 8 million people to work.
Governor,
that's what we're going to do.
Governor,
Congressman O'Rourke, you've also put out a big climate change plan from your campaign. You want some big changes in a pretty short period of time, including switching to renewable energy, pushing to replace gas-powered cars in favor of electric ones. What's your message to a voter who supports the overall goal of what you're trying to do, but suddenly feels as if government's telling them how to live and ordering them how to live? What is that balance like?
I think you've got to bring everybody in to the decisions and the solutions to the challenges that we face. That's why we're traveling everywhere, listening to everyone. We were in Pacific Junction, a town that had never meaningfully flooded before, just up against the Missouri River in Iowa. And every home in that community had flooded. There were farms just outside of Pacific Junction that were effectively lakes. Those farmers already underwater in debt. Their markets closed to them by a trade war under this administration, and now they don't know what to do. We in our administration are going to fund resiliency in those communities, in Miami, in Houston, Texas, those places that are on the front lines of climate change today. We're going to mobilize $5 trillion in this economy over the next 10 years. We're going to free ourselves from a dependence on fossil fuels, and we're going to put farmers and ranchers in the driver's seat, renewable and sustainable agriculture to make sure that we capture more carbon out of the air and keep more of it in the soil, paying farmers for the environmental services that they want to provide. If all of us does all that we can, then we're going to be able to keep this planet from warming another 2 degrees Celsius and ensure that we match what this country can do and live up to our promise and our potential.
30 seconds, Secretary Castro. Who pays for the mitigation to climate, whether it's building seawalls, for people that are perhaps living in places that they shouldn't be living? Is this a federal government issue that needs to do that? Do they have to move these people? What do you do about that where maybe they're building a house someplace that isn't safe? Who pays to build that house? And how much should the government be bailing them out?
Well, I don't think that represents the vast majority of the issue. In fact, my first visit after I announced my candidacy wasn't to Iowa or New Hampshire, it was to San Juan, Puerto Rico. Because people should know that if I'm elected president, everybody will count. And, I'm one of the few candidates in this race with executive experience, with a track record of getting things done. When I was mayor of San Antonio, we moved our local public utility. We began to shift it from coal-fired plants to solar and other renewables, and also created more than 800 jobs doing that. And when I was HUD Secretary, we worked on the National Disaster Resilience Competition to invest in communities that were trying to rebuild from natural disasters in a sustainable way. That's the way that we're going to help make sure that we're all safer in the years to come and that we combat climate change. And if I'm elected president, the first thing that I would do, like Senator Klobuchar also has said, is sign an executive order recommitting us to the Paris Climate Accord so that we lead again.
Congressman Ryan, I got a full question for you here, which is simply this. There are a lot of the climate plans include pricing carbon, taxing carbon in some way. This type of proposal has been tried in a few places, whether it's Washington State, where voters voted it down. You've had the Yellow Vest movement. We had in Australia one party get rejected out of fear of the cost of climate change sort of being put on the backs of the consumer. If pricing carbon is just politically impossible, how do we pay for climate mitigation?
Well, there's a variety of different ways to pay. We talk about different ways of raising revenue, and I think we've got to build our way out of this and grow our way out of this. But let me just talk real quick to the previous question about real politics. We could talk about climate, we could talk about guns, we could talk about all of these issues that we all care about. We have a perception problem with the Democratic Party. we are not connecting to the working class people in the very states that I represent in Ohio, in the industrial Midwest. We've lost all connection. That we have got to change the center of gravity of the Democratic Party from being coastal and elitist and Ivy League, which is the perception, to somebody from the forgotten communities that have been left behind for the last 30 years, to get those workers back on our side so we can say we're going to build electric vehicles, we're going to build solar panels. But if you want to beat Mitch McConnell, this better be a working class party if you want to go into Kentucky and take his rear end out. And if you want to take Lindsey Graham out, you got to have a blue collar party that can go into the textile communities in South Carolina. So all I'm saying here,
Thank you, Congressman.
all I'm saying here
Thank you, Congressman Ryan.
all I'm saying is here, if we don't address that fundamental problem with our connection to workers, white, black, brown, gay, straight, working class people, none of this is going to get done, Chuck.
Thank you very much. We're gonna keep moving. Congressman Delaney, I'm gonna get to you.
I introduced the only bipartisan carbon tax bill in
30 seconds.
Congress.
All right. 30 seconds, go.
All the economists agree that a carbon pricing mechanism works. You just have to do it right. You can't put a price on carbon, raise energy prices, and not give the money back to the American people. My proposal, which is put a price on carbon, give a dividend back to the American people. It goes out one pocket, back in the other.
Thank you,
I can get that passed my first year as president with a coalition of every Democrat in the Congress and the Republicans who live in coastal states. Because Republicans in Florida, they actually care about this issue. This has got to be our way forward if we're actually serious about this issue.
Congresswoman Gabbard, we're going to move here. One of the first things you did after launching your campaign was to issue an apology to the LGBTQ community about your past stances and statements on gay rights. After the Trump administration's rollbacks of civil rights protections for many in that community, why should voters in that community, or voters that care about this issue in general, trust you now?
Let me say that there is no one in our government at any level who has the right to tell any American who they should be allowed to love or who they should be allowed to marry. My record in Congress for over 6 years shows my commitment to fighting for LGBTQ equality. I serve on the Equality Caucus and recently voted for passage of the Equality Act. Maybe many people in this country can relate to the fact that I grew up in a socially conservative home, held views when I was very young that I no longer hold today. I've served with LGBTQ service members, both in training and deployed downrange. I know that they would give their life for me, and I would give my life for them. It is this commitment that I'll carry through as President of the United States, recognizing that there are still people who are facing discrimination in the workplace, still people who are unable to find a home for their families. It is this kind of discrimination that we need to address.
But it's not enough. It's not enough. If I can add to this, it's very important.
30 seconds,
it's not enough. Look, civil rights is some place to begin, but in the African American civil rights community, another place to focus on was to stop the lynching of African Americans. We do not talk enough about trans Americans, especially African American trans Americans, and the incredibly high rates of murder right now. We don't talk enough about how many children, about 13% of LGBTQ kids, who do not go to school because of fear. It's not enough just to be on the Equality Act. I'm an original co-sponsor. We need to have a president that will fight to protect LGBTQ Americans every single day from violence.
Thank you, Senator Booker.
Senator Klobuchar, let me put this to you. On the issue of civil rights, for decades, on the issue of civil rights and demographics, honestly, and politics, for decades, the Democratic Party has counted on African American voter turnout as step one to winning elections on a national level. Democrats are counting on the Latino community now and in the future in the same way. What have you done for Black and Latino voters that should enthuse them about going to the polls for you if you're your party's nominee?
My life and my career and my work in the Senate has been about economic opportunity. And to me, this means better child care for everyone in this country. And when you want to have an economy that works, you need to have retirement that works. You need to have public schools that work. And you also need to make sure that those communities are able to get those jobs of the future, the STEM jobs. In fact, Donald Trump, one of the first bills that he signed, of the 34 he signed where I was the lead Democrat, okay, that's a first up here, was one that was about that, making sure minority community members could share in those jobs. So to me, this is about a few things. It's about an African-American woman that goes to a hospital in New Orleans, says her hands are swollen, and then doctor ignores her and her baby dies. It's about the fact that African-American women make 61 cents for every dollar a white man makes. So in short, we need to, one, and I will do this in my first 100 days as president, we will work to make sure everyone can vote at this table. Everyone can vote in this country. And we will also go to the next step of criminal justice reform. Senator Booker and I worked on that First Step Act, but we should go to the Second Step Act, which is to help all our communities across.
Senator, thank you very much. 30-second follow-up to you. Secretary Castro, this is a 70% Latino city here in Miami. You are the only Latino Democrat who is running this year in the presidential race. Is that enough of an answer? What Senator Klobuchar is describing there, an economic justice agenda, is that enough to mobilize Latino voters to stand with the Democratic Party in a big way?
Well, I also think that we have to recognize racial and social justice. And, you know, I was in Charleston not too long ago, and I remembered that Dylan Roof went to the Mother Emanuel AME Church, and he murdered 9 people who were worshiping, and then he was apprehended by police without incident. Well, but what about Eric Garner and Tamir Rice and Laquan McDonald and Sandra Bland and Pamela Turner and Antonio Arce? I'm proud that I'm the only candidate so far that has put forward legislation that would reform our policing system in America and make sure that no matter what the color of your skin is, that you're treated the same, including Latinos who are mistreated too oftentimes by police.
Secretary Castro, thank you.
Let me go over to Lester Holt, who's got a question, I believe, a viewer question.
I'm over here, Chuck. Thanks. We ask voters from across the country to submit their questions to the candidates. Let me read one now. This comes from John in New York, who submitted this question. He asks, does the United States have a responsibility to protect in the case of genocide or crimes against humanity? Do we have a responsibility to intervene to protect people threatened by their governments even when atrocities do not affect American core interests? I'd like to direct that question to Congressman O'Rourke.
John, I appreciate the question. The answer is yes, but that action should always be undertaken with allies and partners and friends. When the United States presents a united front, we have a much better chance of achieving our foreign policy aims and preventing the kind of genocide to which you refer, the kind of genocide that we saw in Rwanda, the kind of genocide we want to stop going forward. But unfortunately, under this administration, President Trump has alienated our allies and our friends and our alliances. He's diminished our standing in the world, and he's made us weaker as a country, less able to confront challenges, whether it's Iran or North Korea or Vladimir Putin in Russia, who attacked and invaded our democracy in 2016, and who President Trump has offered another invitation to do the same. He's embraced strongmen and dictators at the expense of the great democracies. As president, I will make sure that we live our values in our foreign policy. I will ensure that we strengthen those alliances and partnerships and friendships and meet any challenge that we face together. That makes America stronger.
What about the War Powers Act? What about the War Powers Act being a part of that equation? With deep respect to the congressman, look, we've learned of painful lessons as Americans, that we've gone to war without congressional authorization. And look, this is very personal for me. I know the cost of war. My dad served in the Pacific in World War II in the U.S. Army. Battle of Okinawa, had half his leg blown off, and he came home with scars, both physical and emotional, and he did not recover. He spiraled downward, and he ultimately took his own life. And that battle didn't kill him, but that war did. And look, even in the humanitarian crisis, and I think we should be ready, Congressman, to intervene. God forbid there is a genocide, but not without congressional approval. Democrats and Republicans, both in the Congress, have not challenged presidents and have let them get away with running the military without the congressional approval. We learned a lesson in Vietnam we seem to have forgotten. The decisions have to be made by the United States Congress.
I want to pick up this point, and I want to put this to Congressman Ryan. Today, the Taliban claimed responsibility for killing 2 American service members in Afghanistan. Leaders as disparate as President Obama and President Trump have both said that they want to end U.S. involvement in Afghanistan. But it isn't over for America. Why isn't it over? Why can't presidents of very different parties and very different temperaments get us out of there? And how could you?
I appreciate that question. So I've been in Congress 17 years, And 12 of those years, I've sat on the Armed Services Committee, either the Defense Appropriations Committee or the Armed Services Committee. And the lesson that I've learned over the years is that you have to stay engaged in these situations. Nobody likes it. It's long. It's tedious. But right now we have, so I would say we must be engaged in this. We must have our State Department engaged. We must have our military engaged to the extent they need to be. But the reality of it is this president doesn't even have people appointed in the State Department to deal with these things. Whether we're talking about Central America, whether we're talking about Iran, whether we're talking about Afghanistan, we've got to be completely engaged. And here's why. Because these flare-ups distract us from the real problems in the country. If getting drone shot down for $130 million because the president is distracted, that's $130 million that we could be spending in places like Youngstown, Ohio, or Flint, Michigan, or rebuilding.
Congresswoman Gabbard, I'm going to give you 30 seconds, actually, to jump off what he said. He described engagement as the problem.
Will tell the parents of those 2 soldiers who were just killed in Afghanistan? Well, we just have to be engaged. As a soldier, I will tell you that answer is unacceptable. We have to bring our troops home from Afghanistan. We are in a place in Afghanistan where we have lost so many lives. We've spent so much money that's coming out of every one of our pockets, money that should be going into communities here at home, meeting the needs of the people here at home. We are no better off in Afghanistan today than we were when this war began. This is why it's so important to have a president and commander-in-chief who knows the cost of war and who's ready to do the job on day one. I am ready to do that job when I walk into the Oval Office. Thank you very much.
Listen, I'm going to go down the line. I'm going to go down the line here. Well, you know what? You felt like she was responding. You get 30 seconds. Go.
Very good man.
Fair
I
enough.
appreciate that.
I hear what you're saying.
I would just say I don't want to be engaged. I wish we were spending all this money in places that I've represented that have been completely forgotten and we were rebuilding. But the reality of it is, if the United States isn't engaged, the Taliban will grow and they will have bigger, bolder terrorist acts. We have got to have some present there.
The Taliban was there long before we came in. They'll be there long before we leave.
Well,
we cannot keep U.S. troops deployed to Afghanistan thinking that we're going to somehow squash this Taliban that has been there, that every other country that's tried has failed. I didn't say squash them. When we weren't in there, they started flying planes into our buildings. So I'm just saying right now, the Taliban didn't attack us on 9/11. Al-Qaeda did.
Well, I understand.
Al-Qaeda attacked us on 9/11.
I understand.
That's why I and so many other people joined the military to go after Al-Qaeda, not the Taliban.
The Taliban was protecting those people who were plotting against us. All I'm saying is, if we want to go into elections and we want to say that we got to withdraw from the world, that's what President Trump is saying. We can't. I would love for us to.
Protecting Al-Qaeda right now in Saudi Arabia.
I want to go down the line here, finish up foreign policy. It's a simple question. What is the biggest threat to who is the geopolitical threat to the United States? Just give me a one-word answer, Congressman Delaney.
Can you repeat the question?
Greatest geopolitical threat to the United States right now, Congressman Delaney?
Well, the biggest geopolitical challenge is China, but the biggest geopolitical threat remains nuclear weapons.
Okay.
Right? So those are different questions.
Totally get it. Go ahead, Governor Inslee.
The biggest threat to the security of the United States is Donald Trump. And there's no question.
Congresswoman Gabbard.
The
greatest geopolitical threat.
The greatest threat that we face is the fact that we are at a greater risk of nuclear war today than ever before in history.
Senator
Two threats: economic threat, China, but our major threat right now is what's going on in the Mideast with Iran. If we don't get our
try to keep it slimmer than what we've been going here. One or two words.
Our existential threat is climate change. We have to confront it before it's too late.
Senator Warner.
Climate change.
Yeah. Senator Booker.
Nuclear proliferation and climate change.
Secretary Castro.
China and climate change.
Congressman Ryan.
China, without a question, they're wiping us around the world economically.
And Mr. Mayor.
Russia, because they're trying to undermine our democracy, and they've been doing a pretty damn good job of it. We need to stop them.
All right. Well, thank you for that wide variety of answers. And I mean that. No, I mean that that's what this debate is about. This is the best part of a debate like this. Congressman O'Rourke. Special Counsel Robert Mueller's report outlines multiple instances of potential criminal behavior by President Trump. House Speaker Pelosi has publicly and privately resisted any move toward impeachment in the House. If the House chooses not to impeach, as president, would you do anything to address the potential crimes that were outlined in Mr. Mueller's report?
Yes, and I'll tell you why.
How, by the way, if the answer is yes?
One of the most powerful pieces of art in the United States Capitol is the Trumbull painting of General George Washington resigning his commission to the Continental Congress, at the height of his power, submitting to the rule of law and the will of people. That has withstood the test of time for the last 243 years. If we set another precedent now, that a candidate who invited the participation of a foreign power, a president who sought to obstruct the investigation into the invasion of our democracy, if we allow him to get away with this with complete impunity, then we will have set a new standard, and that is that some people, because of the position of power and public trust that they hold, are above the law, and we cannot allow that to stand. So we must begin impeachment now so that we have the facts and the truth, and we follow them as far as they go and as high up as they reach, and we save this democracy. And if we've not been able to do that in this year or the year that follows, and under my administration, our Department of Justice will pursue these facts and ensure that there are consequences, there is accountability, and there is justice. It's the only way that we save this country.
Thank you, Congressman O'Rourke.
Congressman Delaney, because of the accountability issues that Congressman O'Rourke was just describing there, and the real political landscape in which Nancy Pelosi is saying that impeachment will not be pursued in the House, it raises the prospect, and the Mueller report raises the prospect, that President Trump could be prosecuted for some of those potential crimes down the line. No U.S. president has ever been prosecuted for crimes after leaving office. Do you believe that President Trump could or should be the first?
I guess there's always a first.
Should he be?
I don't think anyone's above the law. I don't think anyone is above the law, including a president. I support Speaker Pelosi's decisions that she's making in the House of Representatives right now as Speaker. I think she knows more about the decision as to whether to impeach the president than any of the 2020 candidates combined.
Conceded.
So, but I do think no one's above the law, and this president, who is lawless, should not be above the law. But I will tell you, Rachel, the one thing when you're out doing as much campaigning as I've done, 400 events, all 99 counties in Iowa, this is not the number one issue the American people ask us about. It's not. They want to know what we're going to do for health care, how we're going to lower pharmaceutical prices, how we're going to build infrastructure, what we're going to do to create jobs in their communities. You know, last year in our country, 80% of the money for startup businesses went to 50 counties in this country. There's over 3,000 counties in this country. That's what they care about. They care about what's going on in the public schools. They care about what's going on with jobs in their communities, with their pay, with their health care, with infrastructure. These are the issues. These kind of kitchen table, pocketbook issues are actually what most Americans care about. They never ask about the Mueller report. They never ask about it. They want to know how we're going to solve these problems.
Here's the thing. Senator,
if we let the Republicans run our elections, and if we do not do something about Russian interference in the election, and we let Mitch McConnell stop all the backup paper ballots, then we're not going to get what we want to do.
I got to sneak in. We blew through a break, which is good news to give you more time, so I got to sneak one in now. More of this debate. It's picking up here. It continues right after this.
Okay. So I'm just going to keep the visual here. I'm going to turn down the volume.
This is one of those things that you have not been otherwise hearing about in the news.
And we'll wait for them to come back. They'll be back in just a moment. But if you have heard them, they were talking here, and they're just giving you a lot of the same stuff you've heard. Honestly, I really don't know how you're going to make a decision like that. How can you possibly make a decision for candidates that are all saying the same thing? They want to tax you at 70%. They said they would have stayed in the Iran deal. Anybody who knows about, like us religious folks, you should respect us. I mean, I love you. You know, I'm coming from a very honest place here. I've been through so much. I've been through drug addiction, and I have a real story to share about that. And I really think it actually makes me qualified to be president, right? How bold to say that, especially when the unique set of problems that we're dealing with right now requires somebody that has insight and is willing to put themselves out there in a way that's real. Hey, Dulce, come here. I'm going to introduce you to my doggy. A little bit of light stuff, aye? Come here, Dulce. Come here, boy. Come here. This will be the presidential doggy. So, oh, whoa. This is Dulce. Say hi. Hello. Hello. I'm Dulce. He's 10 years old. And so, yeah, I had my ex-boyfriend. You know, I was single now for about 10 years. I've been on so many different journeys in my life, you know. I think all of us have been. I don't look it. I'm 40. So, yeah, I'm a gay man. And I started a professional life when I was really young. I had to get serious about life very fast. And I'm watching also, as soon as the debate comes back on, we're going right back to it. I am much smarter than these guys. They couldn't possibly do all this and have their head in the game to even be able to, they're just tricking me. And to be able to have their head in the game, to be able to keep their own cognizant thoughts. For every single thought they have, I have 20 to 30 competing thoughts. This is the kind of candidate we need to beat Trump. And to beat all them, we can't get ordinary Americans who won with longing and who have reason to be there on the stage. But yet we get people who don't have the talent, the reason, they don't belong there. They don't care about us. They're not saying the things that matter to us. You better believe the American ingenuity calls for great change right now. It's coming back on, so I'm going to put you to it.
News now. Don't miss night 2 of the Democratic debate as 10 more candidates battle it out tomorrow at 9 Eastern on NBC, MSNBC, and Telemundo.
Each candidate has 45 seconds. We want to begin with former Congressman Delaney.
Closing now?
Closing.
Okay, 45 seconds.
We could go on.
Together, we are on a mission. We're on a mission to find the America that's been lost. Lost through infighting, lost through inaction. We're so much better than this. We're a country that used to do things. We saved the world. We created the American dream for millions of people like myself. The grandson of immigrants, the son of a union electrician who went on to become a successful business leader and create thousands of jobs. But we did these things with real solutions, not with impossible promises. And those are the roots that we have to get back to. I'm running for president to solve these problems, to build infrastructure, to fix our broken healthcare system, to invest in communities that have been left behind, to improve public education. I just don't want to be your president to be your president.
45
I want to be your president to do the job.
Thank you,
This
sir.
is not about me. This is about getting America working again.
Thank you.
Mayor de Blasio, Mayor, your closing statement.
It matters. It matters in this fight for the heart and soul of our party that we nominate a candidate who has seen the face of poverty and didn't just talk about it, but gave people $15 minimum wage. It matters that we nominate a candidate who saw the destruction wrought by a broken healthcare system and gave people universal healthcare. It matters that we choose someone who saw the wasted potential of our children denied pre-K and gave it to every single one of them for free. These things really matter. And these are the things that I've done in New York, and I want to do the same for this whole country. Because putting working people first, it matters. We need to be that party again. Let's work together. With your help, we can put working people first again in America.
Thank you, Mayor de Blasio. Right on time.
Governor Inslee, 45 seconds.
Trudy and I have 3 grandchildren. We love them all. And when I was thinking about whether to run for president, I made a decision. I decided that on my last day on earth, I wanted to look them in the eye and tell them I did everything humanly possible to protect them from the ravages of the climate crisis. And I know to a moral certainty, if we do not have the next president who commits to this as the top priority, it won't get done. And I am the only candidate, frankly, I'm surprised, I'm the only candidate who's made this commitment to make it the top priority. If you join me in that recognition of how important this is, we can have a unified national mission. We can save ourselves. We can save our children. We can save our grandchildren. And we can save literally the life on this planet. This is our moment.
Governor, thank you. Congressman Ryan, your 45 seconds.
There's nothing worse than not being heard. Nothing worse than not being seen. And I know that because I've represented for 17 years in Congress a forgotten community. They've tried to divide us, who's white, who's black, who's gay, who's straight, who's a man, who's a woman. And they ran away with all the gold because they divided the working class. It's time for us to come together. I don't know how you feel, but I'm ready to play some offense. I come from the middle of industrial America, but these problems are all over our country. There's a tent city in LA. There's homeless people and people around our country who can't afford a home. It's time for us to get back on track. The teacher in Texas, the nurse in New Hampshire, the waitress in Wisconsin, all of us coming together, playing offense with an agenda that lifts everybody up. I will only promise you one thing. When I walk into that Oval Office every morning, you will not be forgotten. Your voice will be heard. Thank you.
Congresswoman Gabbard, you have 45 seconds for your closing.
You know, our nation was founded on the principles of service above self. People who fled kings who literally prospered on the backs and the sacrifices of people. Coming here to this country, instead putting in place a government that is of, by, and for the people. But that's not what we have. Instead, we have a government that is of, by, and for the rich and powerful. This must end. As President, our White House will be a beacon of light, providing hope and opportunity, ushering in a new century where every single person will be able to get the health care they need, where we will have clean air to breathe and clean water to drink, where we will have good paying jobs in a new green economy. Join me in ushering in this new century with peace, prosperity, opportunity, and justice for all.
Congresswoman, thank you.
Secretary Castro, you have 45 seconds, sir.
Me llamo Julián Castro y estoy postulando por presidente de los Estados Unidos. The very fact that I can say that tonight shows the progress that we have made in this country. Like many of you, I know the promise of America. My grandmother came here when she was 7 years old as an immigrant from Mexico. And just 2 generations later, one of her grandsons is serving in the United States Congress, and the other one is running for president of the United States. If I'm elected president, I will work hard every single day so that you and your family can get good health care, your child can get a good education, and that you can have good job opportunities, whether you live in a big city or a small town. And on January 20th, 2021, we'll say adios to Donald Trump.
Senator Klobuchar, the floor is yours.
3 things to know about me. First, I listen to people, and that's how I get things done. That is my focus. I have a track record of passing over 100 bills where I'm the lead Democrat, and that is because I listened and I acted. And I think that's important in a president. Everything else just melts away. Secondly, I'm someone that can win and beat Donald Trump. I have won every place, every race, and every time. I have won in the reddest of districts, ones that Donald Trump won by over 20 points. I can win in states like Wisconsin and Iowa and in Michigan. And finally, yeah, I am not the establishment party candidate. I've got respect, but I'm not that person. I am the one that doesn't have a political machine that doesn't come from money. And I don't make all the promises that everyone up here makes, but I can promise you this. I'm going to govern with integrity, I'm going to have your back, and I'm going to govern for you.
Thank you, Senator.
Senador Booker, sus 45 segundos. Gracias. 50 years ago this month, my family moved into the town I grew up in because after being denied a house because of the color of their skin, it was activists, mostly white activists, that stood up and fought for them. That's the best of who we are as America, and why when I got out of law school, I moved into the inner city of Newark to fight as a tenant lawyer for other people's rights. I've taken on bullies and beat them. I've taken on tough fights and we've won. And we win those fights not by showing the worst of who we are, but rising to who's best. Donald Trump wants us to fight him on his turf and his terms. We will beat him. I will beat him by calling this country to a sense of common purpose again. This is a referendum on him and getting rid of him, but it's also a referendum on us, who we are and who we must be to each other. It's time we win this election, and the way I'll govern is by showing the best of who we are, because that's what this country needs and deserves. Thank you.
Congressman O'Rourke, 45 seconds.
Our daughter Molly turned 11 this week. I'm on this stage for her, for children across this country, including some her same age who've been separated from their parents and are sleeping on concrete floors under aluminum blankets tonight. If we're going to be there for them, if we're going to confront the challenges that we face, we can't return to the same old approach. We're going to need a new kind of politics, one directed by the urgency of the next generation. Those climate activists who are fighting not just for their future, but for everyone's. Those students marching not just for their lives, but for all of ours. We'll need a movement like the one that we led in Texas. It renewed our democracy by bringing everyone in and writing nobody off. That's how we beat Donald Trump. That's how we bring this great country together again. Join us. This is our moment, and the generations that follow are counting on us to meet it.
Thank you, Congressman.
Senator Warren, you have 45 seconds for the final statement of the evening.
Thank you. It's a great honor to be here. Never in a million years did I think I would stand on a stage like this. I was born and raised in Oklahoma. I have 3 older brothers. They all joined the military. I had a dream growing up, and my dream was to be a public school teacher. By the time I graduated from high school, my family didn't have the money for a college application, much less a chance for me to go to college. But I got my chance. It was a $50 a semester commuter college. That was a little slice of government that created some opportunity for a girl, and it opened my life. I am in this fight because I believe that we can make our government, we can make our economy, we can make our country work, not just for those at the top. We can make it work for everyone, and I promise you this, I will fight for you as hard as I fight for my own family.
We would like to thank all of the candidates who participated with us tonight, and that will do it for night 1
And
of
that-
this 2-night event. And guess what? We've got 10 more candidates tomorrow
Okay,
night.
let me turn that down. I'm going to do mine.
Join us then, but for now, that could...
Okay, I'm going to reset this. And here it goes, beginning. So that, ladies and gentlemen, it's how you win elections. You gather a group of people, and that would be you, who want with longing easier times, and you talk to them about American values and character. You wave all these different issues at them. You tell them who's to blame for them. You continue to drive this hate, and that is what they are doing. They are not telling us the things that matter to us. I, Keith Landy, your happy healer for president, and this country needs a happy healer, has been through a life of so much diversity, and the fact is, at a young age, I worked steady to help my family. I would do the same thing as your president of the United States. Vote for me because I want to take great care of our people, and I want to do something so special as an ordinary person, the people's candidate, that none of these guys have done. Go to my website. It's easy to remember. happyhealerforpresident.com. Okay, so sticking to the same standards with these guys, so long as they won't let me on the same stage, and well, I really feel in time that too will change. And so what I want to do is, while I have you here, and some of you I know are just going to hang out with me because you agree with me, and for those of you who are just going to jet, hang out a bit if you can. I say to people, if you have an opportunity, if you don't even agree with them, but you have an opportunity to learn something that you might hear a different perspective, and I'm going to give you a bit of a lower volume here. I think it's a little bit loud now that I'm in a talking. Then you should stick around to hear that perspective. Folks, we are having serious times right now. They're not talking about your children, your husband, your wife, your family, and the hate that they're causing in our lives to each one of us and how it's affecting our lives. I mean, all right, the problem, and I'm a normal guy, first off. I I wouldn't even be interested in being your president of the United States if I did not think to my core, in my being, that God has apparently made something very special about me, unique for this position, because I see the problems in a realistic way. And as a happy healer, let me tell you what it's like for me to be a happy healer. That means I've ridded myself of all hate. I don't work with hate. So you guys that get worked up and have triggers, it's not the same for me. When you see me worked up, it's out of passion and love. And that's why it feels differently. That's why so many people call me weird. But the truth is, the fact that I'm not hating isn't weird. It's the fact that you are. And I say stop hating because we need love in our life. We need that. And it's the reason that we've gotten away from that we've gotten so far away from our Creator, God. We've gotten so far away from love and truth. Truth is also our Creator. We don't have a respect for truth right now in this country. And we have a hard time being able to see the true and unbiased truth. And that's dangerous. Let me tell you, when we can't see the truth and what that does to our families and our lives and each other. And you know, when you're just an ordinary American and you love God with all your heart and you go the distance every single time, you are not thinking about the fear you have for man. No, you know that they're flawed already. That's why you're not going to find your perfect candidate. Your perfect candidate don't exist. You should have known that the day that they were coming out of Harvard and saying that they paid for that privilege, and that being privileged in this country means so much more than being able to take great care of all Americans. They want to take care of racism. I laugh. How can you take care of racism in a greedy society like this? I mean, I'll tell you what, I've got personal anecdotal stories of my own success, of my own failures, having been raised in a poor family, no electricity, oftentimes being kicked out onto the street, and even homeless. Yes, my story represents that. And wanting to go to school and having the brains to go to college and to do so well, but yet because of the hardships my family experienced, because at the age of 13 in 7th grade and 14 and 15, I was missing school and I wasn't able to stay in school because of hardships that were conditions beyond measure, really. I had a tough childhood, but to raise above and beyond that, that's what true heroism is about. True heroism, folks, is not defined by those who fought but did not fall. It is defined, indeed, by those who fought, fell, and rose again. And if you tell me that the only way that we can get to the promised land is by electing in one of your condescending candidates that will stand there and tell you that I'm not qualified because I'm one of you, well, if you go for that, then we just might deserve what comes out of it. And let me tell you something else. I'm going to be a happy guy. When all this is over, win, lose, or draw, I'm going to be a happy guy. Those are the kinds of people you need. It's because I've got the coping mechanisms for that. It's because I've been through the drug addiction. I've been through the hate. I've had some success and I've had some failure. That is what an American life is. We're not electing people with a true sense of American experience. And the American soul is under attack right now, folks. We have to lift the American soul, and they're not doing it. They simply don't care. And folks, they wouldn't allow somebody who truly talks with the truth coming out of their mouths to just get up on stage. You have to stand up and take a stand yourself. So go to the site. When I say go to the site, I mean go to www. And who am I? The Happy Healer, of course. My experiences dictate that. I want my competition. I want my rivals to say something about it. I want them to make fun of it because I'm ready for that day. Those experiences are so profound, and they're the same experiences millions of Americans have gone through. And by the way, we are going to fix the drug crisis like these guys could never do, because drug addicts don't listen to people who have not had the experience. You've got to have real solutions for real people. And the problem with them is that they don't even tell you the truth. And that is a fact. You got to get somebody who can talk. You got to get somebody who speaks with the mind of the people. And I can bring the Trump supporter. I'm telling you quite frankly, folks, I voted with Trump. I know them, and I love you. I'm gay. We can do something so special. God has made so uniquely this opportunity right now in history to do something so uniquely special that we can come together and be the beginning part of. That you are the beginning part of what can ultimately become a big, huge movement that will take us to kinder places where we can solve the true problems of the times we live in. Humanity, folks. We have to get to a kinder place. So let me talk to you more specifically how we are going to do that and why you need to go to my website, because I actually share real truth. I'm not just doing like these other guys. I'm not just in it for my own personal gain. Oh no, I know I'll gain from it, but that's no motivation because I don't care about that stuff. I already had it. If I wanted to go do that, then I never would have had my drug addiction. I'm the kind of person that I've got a big heart. And I seen other people failing as I was winning, and I did not like it. I seen my family failing as I was winning. I didn't like it. I seen a lot of people failing as I was winning, and it hurt. And that's what America is. That's what greed and capitalism is. It's saying, oh, well, if you want to do well, what you got to be really good at is be a dog-eat-dog world. You've got to hurt your neighbor who you should actually love. You've got to hurt your neighbor. And for every success story, there's 10 failure stories in America. That's not the America I want to live in. People say I look like Superman. Great, that's great then. Okay, fine. How about this? Can we do it with the truth, justice, in the American way for once? Those are our Superman's values. Folks, we have to believe in ourselves. If we can't believe in ourselves and the ingenuity of the American spirit, that which has made all of this great American story possible, where we represent 25% of the global economy, yet only 5% of the population, which is just proof positive of how unique and how smart the American people are, and that ingenuity that the American people have produced that shows fact through the numbers isn't working for the American people. Instead, it's working for just a select few. That is the story of the American people. And they're not going to fix it. Not in this greedy system where it says we're just fine with leaving our own family to die. That's why we have to get health care for all. I want to know which one of your other condescending candidates are going to be able to look Trump peoples in the eye and say, come with me because it's the right thing to do. Come with me because we're tired of condescending candidates taking it from me, taking it from you, taking it from my mother who passed away and my father who passed away and my brother. That is why I'm running. Not to be your next condescending candidate. I will leave that to them. This is a serious time, folks. This is a time for serious people. I wish I didn't have to run. I wish these guys had the courage to do what was right in the time when it was needed most. But that is when they fail, and they have been failing. And quite frankly, just like a couple of them said during the simulcast, we have dangerous times. We need careful stewardship of this situation so that we can get to the times we were promised for the last 20 years. And let me show you this website. We're going to get right into the website. I just get so excited because you guys matter. You just matter so much to me. And I love you, man. I love you guys so much. And I love myself too. That's what being a happy healer is. You got to love yourself so that you're powerful and strong and that you know you matter because you have a God that cares about you and that the proof is clear. The proof is so clear in just the vision around us. We see the creation and that the creation, it's just so obvious that there's a creator behind it. Nothing in this world, the rules, the very nature and fundamental core of nature tells us that. Everything has a reason, and so do we. Folks, man, if you knew what I knew, I spent the last 10 years in meditation. Before that, I was in business. Before that, I've suffered and I've had my ups and my downs. I represent the spirit of the American people, and yet it's the people who have for so long been lied to and have been programmed, and who they consistently and constantly just throw more and more lies at, and it's them who have been suffering as a result of it, and now they're getting ready to take on yet another 2 more years of division. Folks, we're headed for a civil war! We're in a soft civil war already! We just pray and thank God for the opportunities that we can fix our country. And we pray and thank and hope that love can actually carry us through. But we know in our heart that these times of hate, they're just so thick and just so real. And that our current president, as much, and I say I voted for him, but as much as, and I wish he just would, just for the people, make the health care for all true and just do things to make unity true and to show Democrats that he loves them. I wish he did that. He can't do that. I wish he did that. If he did, then I think this country would be better off. And that's the kind of Democrat, that's the kind of American I am. And I wish that the Democrats that are running now, that they were talking with unity and love, and that they were giving Trump credit for the things he did right and taking just an honest approach about it. We have to be an honest broker of truth. And the thing about it is Trump is far from the right guy for moving forward. You know, Trump's new slogan now is keep America great. He's done. He's done. That's it. He's fundamentally done. We are on... No. Let me tell you what Trump has actually really made possible for God's plan. Before God, we are heading into a global world that we're allowing millions of people per year to come into this country. That kind of had to slow down in order to bring in what you really want. You don't want racism. You want an income for all. You want health care, people to be taken care of. But then you also want your hate. You also want your greed. It doesn't work. You also want to forsake God. Folks, stop it. Be humble. Realize that God is giving you an opportunity right here with your people's candidate. Where the hell did I come from? Where in the hell did I come from? That's what you need to be asking yourself. So we need to just simply let fate play its little part in all this. And, you know, if the organic way works, that'll be so great, because that's working for the people. And the very nature itself is organic. In the fact that we're heading towards a technological revolution that, just like I said a moment ago, it's like the fundamental core of nature itself is headed towards this technological revolution. And that it was the people who made that possible. And that it needs to work for all of us. And that we actually have to usher in a much greater technological revolution. We're talking about going into the new spiritual realm, where robots take care of most of the work, where we get people out of meaningless jobs that don't give them the purpose and value that they seek, that they can focus on their true passions. Trump wants to put you in the factories. I want to put you back with your families. I know that's where you get rid of depression, and I know that's also how you create human worth and value, and that's how we get closer to the world that we want. You know, no racism, that we want health care, we want an equal keel. You know why it's important to have a health care for all? I'm sorry, not just health care, but also income for all. We got to have an even keel so that we treat people the same. Right now, the first question is what do you do for a living? Of course, you got to do something for a living, because just to have sustenance in this country, you have to work 40 to 80 hours a week. I mean, most people have to. So every first question is, what do you do for a living? And really, how often do you ever hear, oh, I help humanity, or I'm doing great work? By the way, when you give people an income for all, that is going to be the main work. And let me tell you, I'm going to be your inspirer-in-chief. That's my job. I am your inspirer-in-chief. That's why you never hold it against me to call myself the happy healer. I've already made my own transformation. And by the way, this country needs a happy healer. Let's all just be humble about that fact. You see it every day. So let me take us now. And if you're still hanging out with me, God bless your soul, because I know this is a lot more truth than you've heard in a very long time, likely. And that's just the way it's always going to be with me. And you don't always have to agree with me either. That's okay. That's okay. And I'm still learning. I'm not perfect. I am not perfect. I am just like you. We are all fallible. But that I move for truth and that I don't hate leaves me a very clear mind, a very honest mind, that I don't have anything to hide, and that we're just focused on, we can see the real clear things, the real clear problems, things that I bet you these guys would never be able to see. And as a result, they wouldn't want me in front of them. But that's what we got to do. We have to do that exactly. If for nothing else, just to make sure that this stuff is in the debate. But let me tell you, we're going to take it much further, because I am the only candidate that can beat Trump. For us and our supporters, the only race is winning the Democratic nomination. Once we're done with that, we've won the race, folks. I am the candidate that can beat Trump. Make no mistake about that. so welcome. I am Keith Landy. I am 40 years old. I am a gay man. I live in Orlando, Florida. And I started my campaign about 4 months ago, give or take. And I've been the Happy Healer for a very long time. And I'm going to take you to my website now. And I'm not a perfect person, but you know what? We don't need perfect people. What we need, it wasn't ever the people that we had were perfect. What we need is love. And that's where we also went wrong, is that we didn't have love. That's the reason we have all these problems now. That's why we have to get away from the greed. And so that the whole problem was never that we had to be perfect. No! It's just that we had to love. That's it. And it was that love, the love, was perfect. Yeah. Okay, let's get this on the screen. So God bless you. Make sure you take time to be a loving person. Don't let this election season that's only going to get more divisive. I know how it is. Sometimes I'm looking at the screen myself and saying, how can they forget the people? And how can they not talk about the things I'm saying? Nobody's representing these people, these truths. How can they not take this into consideration? They'll never be able to do this stuff. They're not even going to have the unity to do it. Why are they trying to fool us all like that? It's so wrong. Why do they even want our money? Are they just really trying to hurt us that bad? And to me, it appears so. That is why I'm running. And, well, I have my faith in the American people. And I say to myself, as long as I am loving, and I always stick with a loving attitude in my own heart, and that I espouse truth to you, and that I'm honest to you, then that's a fair bargain. That's a fair bargain right there. I think everybody can agree with that. And so that's what I'm doing. And I really think that we're going to be able to grow our movement. So I ask you to be a part of it and to go to this site right here. And let's just look at this a little bit closer, okay, on the issues. And I want to show you the site real quickly. I'll start from the home and then just kind of give you a quick tour. And this is a pretty extensive site. And why aren't the other candidates running a site like this? That's what you have to ask yourself. The Happy Healer for President is, why are they not? Because I'm talking about everything. We have a home, which under this home, you'll see it talks right off the bat about American exceptionalism repaid. Because I talk about that. Who does all this ingenuity, all this creation that we see around us? First off, it's God that gave us the ability to do it, but then we have to do that hard work. You better believe that belongs to the American people, and it's not working for them right now, is it? Okay, so then we go down a bit here. You can see you can make a donation here, and indeed that would be very nice. And if you like, you could even open up this site in your own browser as we go if you want to follow along while I'm giving this tour. It's Happy Healer. It's very simple to spell, HAPPYHEALER for president.com. And I'm also KeithLandy.com. That'll also get you there. And so, okay, our campaign is kicking in gear because you matter. And because you matter, we have to do this campaign so that we can have a life worth living, one in love. Because any other kind of life is simply not worth living, is it? Any other kind of life than but a life in love is simply not worth living. When you know you can have it, then you become very resentful, and people know that. They might not be able to put their finger on it. Like when I tell people these truths, they say, wow, that's why I've been so mad. And they might not be able to put their finger on it because there's so many different lives. But, you know, when you're 40 and, well, I guess if you're a gay guy, you're not so focused on family. And like I said, God put me in a unique position. I've had some success and different things. I really do feel qualified for this. Would I be doing it if I felt we were getting, even a close to fair deal and people weren't so confused? Absolutely not. I would not be doing it. I'm not a selfless person. In fact, I would be a very well-off person if I had the same greed that I see so many people around me have. And I didn't know people were made like that. I really didn't. It broke my heart. And I really don't think that people are, though. I think that people can be better. That's why I boldly say I'm the happy healer. And you watch how many people will vote for the happy healer. You watch how many people will support the happy healer for president, because they want a better life too. They want, when they put their daughter and say, you know what, you're now going to college, they want to know that their daughter can find a good boy and that your boy can find a good girl, and that we can all find great people in our lives and have a more utopian society. And the only way we're going to get that is if we rely on God's gifts. I say have faith in God, because it's God that is allowing us the ingenuity to build these computers, these quantum computers, like you've heard of the D-Wave. And this new technology is just amazing. Back in World War II, the wonder weapons of that age was the V-2 rocket. It was the first rocket, went 3,500 miles per hour, landed in Britain. They didn't even know where these explosions were coming from. Many people thought it were gas explosions because they made no sound until after the rocket had already hit. And by then there was a big explosion. They didn't know what was going on. And the government at the time was lying to them. So you better believe that the government lies in great time of peril. And right now we are in a great time of peril. Our country is in a civil war, and they are lying to you about the things that are even going on behind the scenes. But even in front of the scenes, you can see just so much truth. You really can. And so, as somebody that really gets rid of all, I have to tell you, try this. Somebody who gets rid of all the pain in their heart, and the way to do that is to get rid of the resentment and to get rid of the hate and all that stuff. Then you're free to love, and you're free to think clear. Very, very important that truth has a chance in that environment. It doesn't when you're always biased and triggered by every little thing that happens. And every single one of your presidents this year that are running are triggered people. The only one that's truly qualified is your happy healer. So we have got to take my candidacy seriously until somebody out there that is just as condescending as the rest, but at least who speaks with truth. There's none of them. That's so shocking. I don't know. I don't even think they get it. I honestly don't even. I think if they got it, they would be saying it because it would help them win. People actually get the truth when you say it to them. They're not stupid. Like when I'm telling you now, I couldn't lie to you about this. In fact, you can get it so clear. It's like, wow, that's right. We are totally in the wrong system. Capitalism is greed. And, well, let me tell you about capitalism. It's great, man. I love capitalism. I was able to do very well in capitalism at different points in my life, but I always had to apply greed to do it. Always had to be doggy dog. Always had to be the best. Always had to use my skill to work against other people than for them. And I wasn't working with passion. I was working for money, working for necessity. I knew it wasn't where my heart was. Even as a Boston market manager, I told my employees the work you do is a portrait of yourself. It hangs on the wall for all the rest of society to see. So if you want that portrait to be well, then what you need to do is to paint a good one. The way you do that is by doing a great job, by doing it with passion. Don't work for your wage. Work like you're making $1 million an hour if you're going to work for your wage then, because the work you do is actually a picture portrait of yourself. It is representative of you. It'll dictate your life, your happiness, and that is how you should conduct your life. And that's how I was talking at the age of 20. Oh yes, these folks don't talk like that. They don't speak like that. They don't know like that. So we just have to be very humble in the knowledge that not everybody knows these truths, and we have to be patient. And because right now people are so triggered, they think I hate, but I don't. I get excited. It's different. I'm so alive and I have so much energy. It's like this all the time because I don't hate. I just love. And it's such a great energy. It's something I'm not afraid to talk to anybody or anything about anything, because I see the miracles and I see the common sense in those miracles. Like I was saying a moment ago, God really does exist. I didn't get to finish that. And that God exists, and that we know that God exists because we can see. Of course, this is my opinion, that this wouldn't be written into law. But what would be is that we take care of humanity, and that human spirituality, we have a spirit. You know that because collective there's a spirit. The country right now is feeling a little sick. In some ways it's feeling a little rich and greedy, like a drunk, greedy, rich person. We need to get that spirit a little better, okay? And God forbid it has one little bad day, like it's not rich, like, now it's living paycheck to paycheck. Forget about it. With all its other issues, forget about it. Right now it's just living off of false happiness. That's it. That's it. And so we have to go towards a better way if we expect to take care of these problems, to reduce suicides in our country. Virtually by going in this direction, the new spiritual age that we're talking about here, it is just saying, it is not some great biblical movement. That's not my goal anyway. What we're saying is humanity matters, write it into the law, and that the country and our collective spirit matters, and that right now it is sick, and that we are in a soft civil war, and that we have to do something about that, or we can all pay the price, and that we can actually lose the benefit that we have had for so long. And by the way, if we end up in a real shooting civil war, and if we had clear battle lines, it already would have happened. Not to discount that it can still. Trust me, that's not enough. People are very scared about it. If you have friends that are honest with you, they will tell you at this time in their life, they're so worried, they're so triggered. They don't feel that just because we've lowered regulations and lowered taxes on business, thus creating more jobs and causing the economy to rise, is Donald Trump. We believe it's the ingenuity of the American people coupled with taking those actions. We also believe that if we're realistic with unity and with love and with our real problems, that we have the ability to enter into a new way of business, into a new way of doing things with love. And that we can really say, because of love, and that we can say this in a unified way, that everybody is there to the table. The Trump people, that means the religious people, and the progressive people who for so long have been fighting and wanting a progressive schedule, a progressive plan like this to go through, where we have health care for all, that includes dental and vision, where we have income for all, $5,000 per U.S. American family, where we have income and what's the other one? We're taking great, here's the deal in our campaign, folks. If it's great for humanity, we're taking care of it and we're doing it. Because humanity in this country has to prove, in the richest country, that we're ready. Now remember, the last time we had a great revolution of enlightenment, a great spiritual enlightenment or any kind of enlightenment, was a long time ago. We really are, it's up to us. We're the richest country in the world. We are the people that are most well off. If we don't have this age of enlightenment now when we need it most, we will miss the opportunity to ever have it. And it's that age of enlightenment that's supposed to solve our biggest pressing issues of the 21st century. We're not ushering it in. We're not doing it. They're lying to us. Guys, we got the richest country. We're humanity's only hope. We have to do it. This is the truth that they're not telling you. This is the truth that they are not telling you, and they have to tell you, because if not, we're all going to fail. But then it goes back to, and I believe the truth is, they just don't know. They're just so triggered. They don't get it. All right, I'm going to take you back to the website. This can go on for a while, can't it? I just have so much to say, and these guys just are not talking about any of this stuff. It's so frustrating. You know, where do I even begin? Okay, so American exceptionalism repaid. You know what I mean by that. Donate today, folks. You know, you're Happy Healer for president. I still have to do some beginning things, you know, and I need to get out to Iowa and get the name out there. So please, if you can help, you believe in this message, if you think, just even if you agree with the message and you're still getting to know me, help so that this message can get out, because I'm doing this work full time. Every night at 9 p.m., I am out talking like this because this is the way I'm campaigning. I am using media to get it done. You have got to watch the different ways that we have really used media to win. We are very ingenious. Here, I'm going to show you a clip. This was our opening clip earlier today. I want you guys to see it. I really think you're going to like it. And we're going to build on this, and I'll talk more about it once it comes back on. But basically, we're going to build on this, and we are going to... Okay, there it is. We're going to build on this as well. I just want to let you know that. But here it is.
From NBC News, Decision 2020, the first presidential debate. Live from Hofstra University in Hempstead, New York. Here now, Savannah Guthrie and Chuck Todd.
And good evening, everybody. Nice to have you with us, Chuck. After all the hype, all the prep, all the pre-debate gamesmanship from both campaigns, this is it. We are literally just minutes away now from the start of this first and all-important presidential debate on the stage behind us. We've already seen the candidates tonight. Happy Healer and Donald Trump each arriving here a bit earlier this evening. They're waiting backstage. And Chuck, we've had a moment tonight.
Yeah.
Happy Healer in the house and met Mrs. Melania Trump, and they just shared that handshake. We've got the whole families assembled here.
We do, and I think one thing we got to remember, as big of personalities that they are, and we know this is going to be a clash of big personalities, this is also a clash of two competing visions of America.
Let's bring in our colleague Tom Brokaw, obviously somebody who's watched a lot of debates, but doesn't this feel like there's something special about this one, if nothing else, because they think maybe 100 million people could be watching?
I've never seen one quite like this, in part because of that 100 million people, a lot of them are still trying to make up their minds.
I think the polls will move after tonight.
Here we have the multi-billionaire.
That's right, Chuck. Happy Healer is in the house, and the people are all excited.
About to debate. We'll let Lester Holt take it away.
Good evening from Hofstra University in Hempstead, New York. I'm Lester Holt, anchor of NBC Nightly News. I want to welcome you to the first presidential debate. The participants tonight are Donald Trump and Happy Healer. This debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates, a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization. The commission drafted tonight's format, and the rules have been agreed to by the campaigns. The 90-minute debate is divided into 6 segments, each 50 minutes long. We'll explore 3 topic areas tonight: achieving prosperity, America's direction, and securing America. At the start of each segment, I will ask the same lead-off question to both candidates, and they will each have up to 2 minutes to respond. From that point until the end of the segment, we'll have an open discussion. The questions are mine and have not been shared with the commission or the campaigns. The audience here in the room has agreed to remain silent so that we can focus on what the candidates are saying. I will invite you to applaud, however, at this moment as we welcome the candidates. Democratic nominee for President of the United States, Keith Landis, and Republican nominee for President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Yeah, so you'll want to watch more of that, right? And so you're dealing with somebody here who is multitudes more intelligent than all the other candidates running. I'm just me. Look at everything I can do. That's, of course, God that helps with that, and creativity and love, and living a life that I'm telling you. You get the hate out of your heart, you become almost like 10 times smarter. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm making our country better. Believe in that. Actually believe in something that has hope to really lift you. And just see the proof in it. Because these guys can't do what I do. They can't. They really can't. I've seen them in action, and I've seen their truth. Their truth is so far from the real truth that we all experience. Maybe when I was going through the suffering, like the addiction, the drug addiction, and I said, why me? Why did I have to feel so hurt from all of that I seen? Because before that I was very successful, and it's like I seen my family and all the hurt and pain that they'd gone through, and I said, why do they got to be in so much pain? It was making me feel so uncomfortable, and I had to step back from that, and that the pain was so hard. And I learned things, and I went through a discovery phase, and that this is the story of Americans. You know, people are really experiencing their own life through their own vision, their own prism, their own worlds, and many of them are going through, and it makes depression so real, and that they just long for a life that is not, we're not talking about being clowns. That's not what being a happy healer is. Be real. Be a grown-up. Come to the table with common sense about the whole thing. People go through hard times. And it's acknowledging that. And it's saying that you can get better. And that we can all be better. And that we can rise together. And we can do things that everybody else said we can't do. We just prove them wrong. It's their fault they don't want to believe. There's a Chinese proverb. Never tell a man how to do something that you say can't be done when they're already doing it. And that's why I'm running. Because there's only some of us that can do the job. And so whether you want to run or not becomes irrelevant to the fact that you want a good life, that you want others to have a good life, and that nobody's really got the skill you've got for some reason. They're just so lacking it. They don't understand the things that are Americans are suffering from. And they can't have a common sense vision because they don't have the truth. There's no hope for it even because they're working with bad information. And they do it willingly, just for the votes. They don't even try and get the truth. They're open-minded to more lies and closed-minded to things and ideas that actually work. You've got to have Trump people on your side to make this country unified. Unless you really do want a war, oh, come on, folks. And I'm speaking with the moderates, even though I'm your most progressive candidate, and because I'm your most realistic candidate that I'm unifying the country, is that I can make it all happen. When we go in with the mandate. And that's the only way I run. They're not giving you that. Corey's not giving you that. Mayor Pete, the other gay candidate, who's also very passive, he's probably the bottom. I'd have to ask him. He's really passive. And I don't see how he's going to get your job done. He was just mowed over himself. I mean, did he lose his interest in running now? I wouldn't blame him. Many of these people should really lose their interest. I assure you, if I'm on the debate stage and I can hold them to account to the real truth, they're going to respond to that. People will respond to that. So, the thing to do when you see real truth, you see people that really care, that they can talk and that they have a common approach, something that you can relate with, you support it. That's what you do. So donate to the campaign, take a pledge, take a stand, and don't just donate. Go in and see what we're saying. Here, watch this. Hold on, I got to unmute this site.
Aspects of the human spirit. How are you, sir? God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. They say that everything's great. And the people who like the system now, they're scared too. They're suffering. They see everyone else suffering even worse, and they step back. They say, oh, I'm lucky. They really want to dream.
Hey, go, brother.
Who do you support for president? You're here for Trump. Because here's my goal. My goal is to turn Trump people. Well, I'm a lot younger, I'm 40. But here's the goal. What's your name? I'm Keith Landy. I'm running on the Democratic side for the Keith Landy. And the best way to find me, folks, is happyhealerforpresident.com. Happy Healer for President. This country needs a happy healer. That's why you're happy healer. That is to say, me, Keith Landy, is running for president because we have serious times and we need serious people to solve those serious issues. And what we have right now are people who are focused on their own greedy agenda, their own political agenda, their own ideas with a tight lip and no open ears and no open mind and no love. Where is the capacity to have loved God? We're the 25% of the global economy, yet 5% of the world's population. You better believe the American spirit has ingenuity. You better believe the American story is one of an exceptional one. But yet look where the American stands today. And yes, I've seen him. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the drug addiction and the drug epidemic in this country too. It's not funny how they turn the world upside down on us. Well, in this campaign, we're going to right upside that world, and we're going to write up the rightful dream to the American people that provides the health care for the people that they need, that provides an income for all, $5,000 for a family of four, that provides the essence of life and the appreciation of life, one that says to take humanity first, you have to have common sense humanity policies. You can't just say what's right for the Democrats or what's right for the Republicans. You got to have an agenda that's for humanity. And humanity in America, we matter. We matter. They're trying to tell us we don't matter, or they're trying to tell us that their agenda is more important, that they're trying to confuse us, but we matter. Don't let them tell you no different. We matter. You matter, I matter, we all matter. That indeed is why I call myself the Happy Healer, because we have so much hate in this country, because we have to spend this time spreading love and talking about the truth that other people are not willing to talk about it. They have no courage, folks. These are truths that you likely never heard before.
Yeah, so that's nice. Hang on. We're going to go down here now. We've got another one. I want to play a couple of these for you. These are what we do. This is how we're getting the word out. You guys matter so much. We just have to be so epic because the condescending candidates are such liars. They don't even have this skill, folks. They couldn't do it if they wanted to. Here we go.
Hello, fellow citizens. Activate. I am your happy healer for president, running in 2020. We have serious issues, and we need serious people to solve those serious issues, and you know I'm right. So let us get serious now. Because we don't have a chance, and we don't have privilege. Hello, you might be wondering who I am. My name is Keith Lane. I live right here in Orlando, Florida, and believe it or not, I'm running for President of the United States. I know, it sounds grandiose. Don't get caught up in it. Let us focus more on the mission at hand. What we're focused on here is doing good work for Americans, good work for our brothers and sisters, focusing on our health care, focusing on our lives, focusing on what's right for our future, and ultimately, a gift from our Creator, Almighty God, and a promise from Him. In this life, the same thing really that this nation says, and that is that we can have the pursuit of happiness. Our Creator wants the same thing for us. And so we have reached that precipice in time where our Creator, our environment, it seems like the very nature of life itself is screaming and it's calling for new times. And so here I am, your happy healer for President 2020, and we're building this event because I am your Orlando son. This city is my adopted city, my adopted home. I have a home here. I care about my home here. And I love Orlando. And I love America. And I love you. And I love life. And I feel like all of us have been getting the raw deal in that we can have so much better in life. And that we have been for so long forsaken and forgotten. And that we have been losing our minds and going mad with the knowledge of knowing that we should have so much better. And so we clamor to the idea that maybe if we all band together and we push and we scream and we pick our sides, that we can have some piece, some slice of that which has for so long evaded us, largest injustice in all of our lives. And that is our time. We live in now. And the American people know its injustice is just so wrong, and that we can have so much better. And that is why we see this huge division in our country. That is why this time, like no other time in history, calls for people that are serious to come together in a serious way and to put humanity first. And in doing that, folks, you have to be the humanity candidate. You have to love all humanity. That's right. You have to love all humanity. And they're failing to do that. They're choosing their sides. They're picking their sides. They're saying, I'm right and you're wrong. They're all choosing sides. They have your haves and your have-nots. They have your rights and your lefts, your ups and your downs. Why is the world, can it just be a sensible place focused on humanity? We are the people that matter. We are the people
There are no other people. This is the life. This is our lives. You know, I say to my religious friends, yes, we need to work towards our afterlife, and it's so important. In fact, life itself, the very nature of it, is a journey towards that afterlife. But we also have to focus on this life and what is right here and what we have right in front of us. Yes, it is important, and I believe we will be judged based on how well we take care of each other, and that is the test of this life, and that is the journey of this life, is to show how much love we can show one another, and how much we can succeed in that love, and how much we can use that love to conquer our problems right before us. Like, we need to provide health care for our citizens, and that's why I am announcing my candidacy for President of the United States right here in Orlando, Florida. I am so proud to be able to do that, and you know what? We are not going to drop this ball. This opportunity is an opportunity for the people. We are going to take it from here straight on, because the people matter. We are going to enter the White House. Should we ever get there, it'll be because of that. Make no mistake about it. How can you possibly say you are the humanity candidate and you are for killing babies? There is a sanctity of life, and it's not buzzwords. We're not trying to use buzzwords. You gotta get that out of your system, folks, and I just sometimes have to dig so deep. People are very sensitive, and we have to talk to them with a sensitive tone. We have to realize how sensitive they are, so sensitive, because they've been toyed with for so long. It's just so wrong, and for so long they've been toyed with. It's unconscionable. How can people do that to other people? And that is why your happy healer is running, because he sees that we can have and be so much better. And so talk to those people. What's matter is a matter to me, and to our families, and to our environment that we live in, that is all around us. Why is it that we are accepting this divisive environment? It's just no good. And we're excited about this day because we have to be prepared. We have to announce our candidacy for presidency of the United States. This is us, the people. I am your people's candidate, and we are focused on what matters, because no other candidate in this race is really. And that is you, the American people. Make no mistake about it. I am so proud to know that and say that and live that truth. Every single day I get on, I talk about that truth, and I remind you of that truth. Yes, I am a humanities candidate, and I've heard other candidates actually use that word humanity, like as if they were somehow a humanities candidate, but we know they're not the humanities candidate. Your humanities candidate has to be somebody who could stand tall and say, I hold the moral high ground on humanity. Because nobody is going to let you hold the moral high ground on humanity as the humanities candidate unless you really take care of humanity. You better believe I am selling a realistic picture, because we have to win, and we owe it to ourselves to have a winning formula. And that's why I'm going directly to the people who matter, and that is all of you. Each and every person who is an American matters. You're an individual in this country, a citizen, and for so long, it's us who have been forgotten. Hello, and my name is Keith Landy, the Happy Healer. I am running for President of the United States of America. I'm doing it because I love our country. I love it so much. I'm a 40-year-old man. I am not without flaw. I am a normal human being. I just love, and I just know it's right for our country. Hi, folks. My name is Keith Landy. I'm the Happy Healer, and I'm running for President of the United States. I'm running because I believe in our country, and I believe in each and every person in our country. I believe in the future, and because I see so clearly the need for a better way, and that humanity gets a true shot. So what this video is my announcement for President of the United States of America. I do it humbly. I don't want to be your next condescending candidate. I want to be your humble candidate. The one focused and driven on the things that matter to us. Very simple when you look at it in those terms. So join me on this June the 18th, right here in Orlando, Florida. If you're local, I would love to have you come out. Join us right outside of the Amway Center downtown and just be a part of the process that is becoming the Happy Healer for President, a movement that is of, for, and by the people, as I am your people's candidate. Well, if you want to see the Happy Healer, just speak about love and unity and the things that we all need to hear, then come out. And if you want to support a candidacy that is actually focused on the real needs of the American people, the things that we all truly need in our lives, then come out. And if you just want to have a difference in our country, that you care about our country just like I do, and you want your voice to be heard just like I want my voice to be heard, then come out and be a part of what is ultimately the Happy Healer for President and all of what we stand for. Our platform, the Humanity Platform. And we're the only candidacy that can truly stand up and say that we are standing tall on humanities. We love the human being. We back the human being. And we realize what it is so important to put value and purpose in each and every life in order to have the moral high ground. You can't have the moral high ground, and the people won't let you have that moral high ground on human values if you are not genuine, if you are not complete in humanities in every sense of the word. You can't have an inconsistent message and say that humanity while in the womb doesn't matter, but then later on that we need health care for all. It just doesn't make sense, and the American people aren't going to let you get away with that. You need the chance to thrive and to do well in becoming a new age, and that is exactly what we are rolling in as a new age. And we're going to be talking about this and so much more. So I don't want to spend too much time. It's already been a few minutes. I think you get the idea. We are a new age candidacy. We are a candidacy of, for, and by the people. I welcome you to join us. Let's get serious about unity in our country. Let's take our grave threats of our time seriously. Unity in our country is a grave risk to the security of every American. And so, vote for the people's candidate, back the people's candidate in this race, and we can get unity, somebody who's putting our humanity first and putting common sense first. Folks, what you're going to hear from your Happy Healer is nothing but common sense and more common sense. And that's what people expect to have in their leader. And so, make no mistake about it, I, your Happy Healer, while I may not be your condescending candidate, I most certainly do have what it takes to become President of the United States of America. I'm 40 years old, and I have had a life, an American life, representative of Joe, somebody. It could be anybody. It could be you. I've had great opportunity, and I've also had tough knocks in life. And the reality of it is, all of it has prepared me for this monumental moment, because that is the experience of the American people, that they range in experience, and that it takes somebody that has that true grit about working for those people and knowing who they are, and that you can't even begin to know who they are unless you can relate with who they are, unless you have been there. And your Happy Healer has, and I am running for president on that message on the humanities.
This gets good here.
So join me on the 18th at 6:30 p.m. at the Amway Center right here in Orlando, Florida. You'll be able to find me because I'll be the guy with the American flag. I'll be the guy with the signage that says happyhealerforpresident.com, and I will be the guy announcing for this country a new day in America.
a new day, a day where we can all dream again. It's just gonna be so great. I can't wait to see realized the average man's dream that for so long we knew was possible and was fleeting but shouldn't have been. We're gonna be talking about that. We're gonna be talking about the qualifications of yours truly to be president of the United States and why those condescending candidates would have you think otherwise, but they are wrong, and I will tell you why and how, and they are wrong, and you know they're wrong because of their approach. They are no better than you. They are no better than me, and I am the people's candidate, and what is true about me is true about you. Let us have the courage to vote somebody in with the purity of the experience of the American people, somebody who can truly feel in touch, and that is what is going to serve the American people. We need no less than the most deepest and strongest characteristics of our next president to bring about the unity our country deserves. And in unity is where we will find our prosperity. It's where we will find our promising days. It's where we will find the days where we can deliver on humanity in the most meaningful and powerful ways, so that we can provide health care for all. It's something we have to do for humanity. It's the same reason why we have to care for the unborn humanity. Humanity matters, and that is my platform. No other platform is consistent. No other platform.
Did we run through this already? I have a feeling like we ran through this, so I'm just going to keep it going. If you guys are liking this, it's great stuff. I kind of took my eye off it for a second there, which is fine. And just kind of rolling down here a bit, I want to also show you. Let me turn that off, actually. And the best way to get here is just come to the site. It's happyhealerforpresident.com. There it is at the top. And you could also just put in keithlandy.com. And I'm live here with you now. Time is 11:58 p.m. I came on 9 p.m. Every night we come on 9 p.m. This is how I'm running my candidacy. And you can see the site map here with all of the different categories that we have. This is how transparent your people's candidate is. That's why I call myself your people's candidate, is because I am transparent and I do not have anything to hide. I am one of you guys, and that we all virtually are feeling the same pressures in one sense or another. I have been you in many ways. You know, my life is that diverse. So social media, and by the way, I touch these in categories. So you have your 9 p.m. nightly show. That sometimes I touch something on the show, like I'll probably put tonight in there. And then you have American Greed, Problems Caused, and I'll click on it just to show you. And what you'll find in here are all of the news stories that your Happy Healer for President himself wrote. I do all of this media. I've learned it for the purpose of making a difference in humanity. I was the Happy Healer long before I was the Happy Healer for President. And this is all born for the right reasons. These are the kind of candidates we need running. People like me. People that really care, and I'm sure yourself, that you're just honest yourself. You're just looking for the right person. It's why you're here. You know you can't even afford to not pay attention, although you wish you could. And that's me too. And that's why I'm running. And so then you have announcements here. And you can go to the right when you come down here and click. There's so many of these articles. Like Happy Healer is in a death struggle to save America from itself. And we'll click on it. And once you click on it, you can see it's got an entire article attached to it. And Happy Healer is in a death struggle to save America from itself. And I turned off when you started talking and about you weren't wearing a suit. Yeah, one time I came on and I didn't have my suit on. And, you know, somebody who just didn't know me doesn't know all the things that I'm fighting for. I'm coming on every single day. I'm putting these articles up. I'm making a site that's actually worth seeing. And I'm treating you with respect. I treat you like you matter. I know you do. I know what you're made of. I know what the American soul is. And they don't believe in us. They don't believe in you. But I do. And so that's why I'm running. They just don't believe in us. All right, so once you get on the articles themselves, one thing you'll notice is off to the right here, you have all your different concerns. What do you want to know about? Well, your Happy Healer is more than likely wrote about it extensively. Every single one of these things have so many different articles on them because every day I am just mounting on this stuff. And all right, so this one doesn't have a bunch, but a lot of them have a bunch of them on there. And I like to inspire. I'm going to be your inspirer-in-chief. Here you go, another one with a bunch of articles. Here you go, another one with a bunch of articles. Do you want to stand up for Christian values? Here's how your happy healer approaches that. I got to turn that off. Here's how your happy healer approaches that. Are you ready? I'm pulling this back over because you'll probably want to see me more. I'm just going to read this though. Do you want to stand up for Christian values in a real way? Then the best way to do that is to not judge ever, unless you want to commit the worst sin of all. We are all sinners. So in a way, if you judge, how dare you judge? You're a sinner too. That was your biggest test. And God put gays like me here, I truly believe, after long and steady thought about this, and other people who are trivialized. He put me here as a test to your hatred. And you used his word instead to push people like me away. I have such love for God. We have to be careful we don't do that. You said God hated me. And so that caused me to fall away from my Christian values because they don't think very highly of me. Why should I think highly of them? It was God who made me. Was this a big joke? I'm God's creation. And I just trust in God's creation. And I believe that's what faith is. I don't think he messed up. I really don't. And I'm just going to do with these facts here as I always do. Make sense of them, communicate them, and explain my positions and how I came to them. That it was based on sound judgment, not reckless judgment, a careful consideration of sound facts. That's how we do things, because you matter, and we owe it to ourselves to do things in a way that will allow us all to win, and that we have to win with love, because more hate and greed will keep us from getting to the promised land that we all demand. We'll be in war soon. It's getting bad. Some people are blind from the fact that we're headed towards a war, and it almost seems impossible that we can avoid it. And it's quite clear. Just as it's evident that we have a creator by the evidence of our presence here and the rules we see that govern our lives, everything here has a cause and effect, so do we. That means it's so obvious to me that we have a creator. And I think it should be to anybody who's just observing the facts. On top of that, miracles are happening all the time. Life is one, is it not? Science is another. But we're going to get back to science. Your happy healer is a guy of science. We are no less the result of some outside force, as is the world we take for granted every day, a result of our human force. So the fact that we know God is so real is based on the fact that I can make sense out of and explain its logic. I like science. I like it for the same reasons that I like religion. not religion, God. It's just facts. And that it helps us reach a consensus. And that it's unbiased. I love that. That's God's truth. The essence of God is love and truth. Truth alone is dangerous, isn't it? Love alone is dangerous, folks. I don't know if you ever tried it, but that's why there's a lot of drug addicts out there and so many people in pain. Love alone is so dangerous. So you need love and truth together. That's the only way to have a happy life. And as your president, that's exactly how I will be governing so that we can attain that happy life. None of the other candidates are talking about that. They simply don't know it. They're part of the problem. They have just as many triggers, just as many biases as you do, just as many hates. They can be controlled just like you can. You watch if I get on the debate stage how I can poke and prod and how they can't even control me. Oh, did you hear the word control? Yes, because your biases control you. It's just so true. Your biases allow a smart guy like me to dial into your psyche and to be able to simply say the things that will make you act. And that's all these candidates are doing. And they themselves are biased and hateful and using the lowest emotions in the human psyche in order to get what they want. And they'll never get us to the American prosperity that we can all have based on our own ingenuity, the ingenuity that God gave us. They'll never provide that to us, folks, because they're not using truth and they're not using love, and they're forsaking the fact that it's so obvious that we have a creator, and they're lying to us. They're disingenuous. And that is why I am running for president of the United States, because I love. God is perfect. He can say what is true about us. We can't say what's true about him, however. Yet many have no problem doing just that and driving people like me in my youth away from God based on lies. Things they did not know to be fact, but yet they said it. And that drives people away from a happy life too. It makes them not believe in hope. And if you want to talk to a class of people that have no hope, you talk to drug addicts. They are the people who hope least because they are the ones who hear the most people telling them about how they can do things and how, really they're just condescended to. And aren't we all? Because of the classes. Something that a income for all will do? It'll erase those classes. Even the rich people will like that. It's so hard to find real, genuine, redeeming qualities in the human race today. It really is. I'm a single guy. It's just so hard. And that's not good because we have such great people and the capacity to do so much and to care so much and to love so much. And just imagine the society that we can build out of truth and love. They've tried everything else and they're failing. We have the ability to usher in a great new age of spiritual production technological production with our spiritual humanity focused on love and to take care of that humanity. Then you're going to be making all kinds of progress like we have never seen before. The money, by the way, let me tell you, I've thought about all of this stuff. I'm ready to have these really complicated conversations. Like, how do you pay for it? Because I have a plan. They don't have a plan how to pay for anything. Because when we go into the new spiritual age and we're creating human value, actually in our laws, there's actually value that's created in that. Oh yeah. We have it all down, and we have it on the site too. There's ways you can read, and we have an encyclopedia of information there. It's all stuff just God gives us if we just listen, because the truth is all around us. So, and because you can't ever know if you don't have the truth, like in a way that you can sense it's true, then how do you know it's true at all? So in many ways, people are so passive about accepting what is true. But when your happy healer talks to you, he doesn't just tell you what is true, he tells you how is so that it's true. Okay, and this is going to help you understand with a lot more clarity. And these folks who are telling lies, they can't tell you how it is so that it is true what they're saying, because it is not. And I would challenge them every time they say anything. How so is it that is true what you are saying, sir, ma'am? Our lives count on it. Wait for the day that your happy healer, which is righteous indignation, looks at Donald Trump in the eyes and says, how dare you put these precious souls, more and more of them, back in building more and more factories for human robots when we should actually be building using the ingenuity that works for the military, that works for big business, that makes them billions and more billions. A time in history where America, whenever it does well, turns out more billionaires, but yet people suffer. Instead, let's let that ingenuity work for them, I would say. Why is it that you're forgetting about them? Why are you putting them inside the factory and then saying that they can't have health care for all? You're trying to wear down their bodies and you don't even want to fix them. And yet you're not the one that's rubbing elbows with people dying on the street, but your happy healer is. You better believe that. That's right, I live in a black neighborhood actually, and there is one of my recent neighbors who was without a place to stay and on the street, had an autistic daughter named Amber, and I did like how a neighbor should do. I took them in. They're not that. They're not happy healers. They're actually very rowdy. But I took them in. I don't fear man. I love man. I want to increase the stock in every human being I possibly can. And if it's just one, I'm just fine with that. And if you don't believe me now, today is the most I ever had. You guys just clinged on to what I'm saying. But yet my vigor has been this high the whole time. Because I know that even just one person is worth the effort. These are the kinds of people we need running our country. Not the liars and the power-hungry people that are there now, but people who have the courage to say that we need to unite this country or we get nothing done. That means your dream dies, my dream dies, all of our dreams die. The only thing that could possibly happen is a civil war. So for the next 2 years, they're going to make sure we're guaranteed split up, that we're in this awfully hateful place, completely biased, with no unity. And I know it touched your life because it touched mine. And that they want to take it into the 4 years beyond that. And of course, 4 years beyond that is so far as you can see into the future, no unity. Guess why? Because none of them have a plan for it. I am the only candidate with a plan for unity, with a realistic one. None of them have one. They can't get rid of Trump and still give you unity. The only way you'll ever get unity is if you take Trump and then love him somehow. And he's a hateful guy. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with the truth. Back people who can really get the job done, who can win, who has the intelligence, the integrity, and the honesty, who is an honest broker of truth, who loves and who just does the right thing. And by the way, it doesn't hurt that you have blue eyes and look like Superman and fight for truth, justice, and the American way. We just have to do good work, and we have to hold each other accountable to it, and we have to hold our leaders accountable to it. And it's this new world that we all know we should be having. That's why we're so angry. You know that's why you're angry. Inside the depths of your soul, you know you could have so much better. And the black people know they can have so much better. I'm in their neighborhood. I know this. I see this. They have stayed with me. I am their family. They are my friends. We love. And that is what we have to be doing. That is what we have failed to do. That is what we got away from. That's it. You thought it was about a perfect candidate, and that is what it was not about. Instead, it became in that it was always about love, and then that when which you love solves all problems. It really does. Love wins. You can win with love. You can be vigor with love. You can be angry with love. Trust me, you can be. You can be mad with love. But you just got to leave hate out of the picture, guys. That's what the Happy Healer does, because it's time now to get serious about our futures. Otherwise, like I said, 2 years guaranteed, nothing, not even that your Happy Healer can do about that. I'll tell you what, though, as soon as we got the Democratic nomination, we already beat Trump. I'll be in my transition at that point, because we're going to win with Trump's people. You better believe it. And Trump will know that too. I'll have no reason to be bitter with him, and I'm not bitter with him now. I'm not bitter with any of them, except for that none of them are qualified and that they're ruining our country. Well, we're all bitter about that. But I also understand how important it is to love. And that's the one thing they don't offer. They don't offer anything on that. They have no insight. They just want to hate more. How is that going to help you and your families? How's that going to help your daughter, your son? or your grandparents, but I really want to talk about the young people. How is that going to help them? They're the ones. I'm young too. I'm 40 years old and I even look younger. So how's that helping us, guys? We got a future, and we have to really fight for that future if we intend to live in the 21st century, and we intend to beat China, who's already got so many hundreds of thousands of electric buses to our 400. They have their high-speed rails. We have none. These are facts, guys. It's unacceptable that they have been using our country, which represents 25% of this global economy. It is us, the 5% of the global economy, Americans, that American exceptionalism that I talk about that has been gypped. It's that American exceptionalism that must be repaid. And it's just like I say, we have suffered for long enough. And I tell my friends, and I tell everyone, you know, black people sometimes say they should get reparations for their pain and suffering. Well, no, I don't agree just that they should. I think all people should. That we all have gone through so much and that for so long we have looked and seen each other dying and being without. You don't have a free card to be successful. You think in America you can live the American dream? No, you can't. I've been there. I'm going to take it from somebody who's already gone through the cycle once, okay? And then through in a drug addiction. I've been through the whole thing already, and I'm about the other side, okay? And I found God. It's great. Take it from me. If you go down a pointless road of just chasing money, what you're going to realize is that people around you might not be as talented as you. People you really love. You leave them behind sometimes. And that the world don't care about them. And then that you have to find yourself paying for them. And that if you don't do it, then nobody does. And it's the same way with the healthcare. And that it goes to real extremes. And that people who that otherwise say, oh, I love God and I love people and I'm a great guy and I'm a great girl. But they just watch people die all day long. And then they wonder why there's racism. And then they wonder why there's all these problems. And they laugh and curse at your happy healer. Proof evident by look at the likes. Look at them. Shameful, I say to you. Very shameful. I come and I bring love. And this is what you bring back. But it's okay because I'm very focused on the love, actually. You see, because I don't fear man. I know what I'm doing is right. I've taken the energy that you have not taken. I have taken that energy to know that what I'm doing is right. And openly, I tell you, are we getting something wrong here? Then you approach because, you know, it's so far as our ideology goes, it takes us as so far as the truth will take us. And as so far as science will take us. That is God's truth. Yeah, folks, when I talk, people are moved. I could sense it. I know myself, I'm getting a divine sort of clue of truth that people just seem to be so ignorant of. I don't know why. But I am doing my very best to share that truth and to share love and to do what's right because I have the answers. I know I do. Love is the answer. And we have consistent, workable plans. None of these guys will ever bring you unity with their hate. Their hate won't do it. Hate is the wrong ingredient. Look at everything I said. All that I typed. I can even get really angry for the right reasons, of course, out of love. I could argue with somebody. I never hold resentment because it's a fool's errand. Pride, it's a fool's errand. I am just light and nimble for the truth. I move quick. I inspire. I lead from the front. I am an American. I am a proud American. I believe in Superman's justice for America. Truth, justice, in the American way. My name is Keith Landy. I am your happy healer for president, running in the year 2020. God bless you. Good night. Please donate. Help out this great campaign. Go to the site. I've already showed and gave you a quick review of a little bit of the site. Is like an encyclopedia. We need smart people in this country. I would love to have you on the campaign. And if I didn't ask you, well then maybe you don't feel like the need is there. Let me make it clear. I'm asking for your support for our people of this country. Trust me, and I won't let you down. God bless you, folks. Please join me here as we actually are using media to campaign and running through the Landy Mantix brands of passions. The overall brands of passions are over 40 different brands of passions. Everything from I'm great at flying drones to I could type 70 words per minute. We're just inspiring people using passion to do it. And these are the kinds of ideas we'll use in the country as well. So we're using media to win. We're going to be back here at 9 p.m. tomorrow night. I will see you right back here at 9 p.m. And God bless you. Make sure you tell your loved ones that you love them. Good night.